As the leader of the Booner Path, I lead from the front.
All right, boys. Lock in.
It's our core foundation, man. Grit.
I'm fired up. I'm fired the up, boys.
It's bumping right now. It's got my juices pumping, boys.
Welcome, everybody, to Crunch Time with Jeff, Booner, Lukas, and Gentry. It's Wednesday, September 11th. And let's have a show, all right? Let's have a show.
I'm out of it.
Let's have a show. I'm excited. We got a lot to get to today. A lot of Tampa Bay Lions talk. We got some updates regarding some players in that game. We got John Maakaron, the doc, joining the program. Boys, it's a stacked show. I'm fired up. This lighting, I'm kind of figuring out.
Yeah, I don't think it looks too bad.
Right. He's trying to figure out the lighting and the hair at the same time. It's a bad time to go through both, you know. Just throwing it out there, you know. I love you, Jeff.
Yeah, so I'm going through this journey. So I shaved my head to get like Lukas, and now I'm growing it out. Now I'm like Boone, and then I'm gonna see. I'm
slowly get back.
Get back to Jeff. Yeah,
the flow will come soon. I told Jeff before the show he went from Klotz to me, and he's going to be like Gentry, and then he's going to be on his own. He's going to be Jeff. It'll be Jeff Iafrate again. Hey, I'm pumped though. Big show today. The doc's joining. I can't wait to talk to the doc. I'm pumped. Some Lions football, some Bucs stuff. We've got a packed show. I'm excited. A lot of things to talk about. Maybe not as much yelling as yesterday, but we've got things to talk about.
Yeah, we do. DJ Reader, DJ Reader's back. He's back, and he's going to be playing this weekend. That's huge news. We'll get to that at 8:15. But, boys, just the game in general, and I'll just start it off like this, okay? 2-0 opportunity to go 2-0 for the Detroit Lions. Eric Woodyard put out a tweet, I think it was today, and it was, you know how you get those stats that tend to favor in the Lions' favor, just random stats that you didn't know about? Well, here's another one of those random stats. That maybe, I think in this case, because it fits the narrative, we'll just say is probably true. Eric put this out. The Lions are the fourth team in NFL history to start with 2 playoff rematches from the previous season, and the first 3 teams all at least reached the Super Bowl that season, per ESPN Stats Info. Dan Campbell says it doesn't matter who you play, you have to find a way to win. And you see the other teams. Yeah. The 2007 Patriots lost the Super Bowl. 1984 49ers won the Super Bowl. In 1966, Packers won the Super Bowl. And all those teams started with 2 playoff rematches to begin the season. Those are the only 4 examples, and the Lions are the last one.
They're all about 20 years apart, too. I mean, 66 to 84, what is that? I hope I could be wrong. Years. What is that, 18 years? All right. And then 84 to 07, 23 years. All right, little short distance. The Lions would be the shortest distance, but I think all it says is that you get battle tests in the middle of the season, and then the Lions, you look at the middle of the schedule, there's definitely some tough games. Me and Boone predicted that there'd be kind of a tough month there, and then you end the season with the 49ers, so they'll be battle tested all through it. So I think the narrative looks very bright when you look at stuff like that.
I like it. I like it, Boone.
It fits my narrative. It fits the Booner Path narrative at the end of the day. Listen, the thing with the start, like on Sunday, and I was thinking about this today, you play 2 playoff teams that are going to be in the playoffs this year. 2 teams, like, Jeff, I know what the 49ers are, but, like, you had the Rams who win that division. They're going to be competing for the division all the way to the end, I'm sure, when that team gets healthy. The Bucs are probably going to end up – by the way, too, I looked at their division odds. The Bucs are like plus 240. The third worst odds, or the third odds to win their division. They still have the Saints above them right now, and they have the Falcons above them to win the division. So you do got to think, like, it's crazy. I looked at it last night. I was texting my guy from the Bucs, and I was like they're plus 240 to still win the division. Like, lock it in. He was like, I already locked them in like months ago. But they're third in the odds to win their division. This is a team that probably will win that division. You have a chance. Like, you guys laughed at me having the Lions number 1. There are so many people had the Lions at number 3, number 4 in their NFL power rankings. You go this Sunday, you have a chance to start the season 2-0 and dominate a team that's probably in a lot of people's top 10s right now, and you just beat a team last week who were in a lot of people's top 10 as well. Like, these are 2 top, probably 12 NFL power ranked teams in the NFL that you're going up against. If you start 2-0, I think that's a big, big deal, guys. Like, I know they're 7-point favorites. Go take care of business versus 2 playoff teams and, like, hey, we're Super Bowl. Like, we're here to win this thing. Like, we're not messing around. Like, last year, you started 1-1, and people were like, all right, what are the Lions really like? Like, there was still a little question. They beat the Chiefs. You know, you're sitting there like, all right, what are they really like? Until you got into the season a little bit more. You're Super Bowl contenders. Go 2-0. Go take Baker Mayfield, send him back to Tampa, and question why he's playing football right now. You know, I like Baker. Don't want to no hate on Baker. But you see what I'm saying? Like, go out there and prove why you're a Super Bowl team. Like, you guys were talking all about the 49ers doing what they did to the Jets and gobbling them. Like, I just say that because people call me a golf gobbler and all that.
That's fair.
But you guys were gobbling the 49ers and the Chiefs. All right, Detroit Lions, your turn. Go show why you're the number 1 team in football. Prove me right. All right? Go prove me right. Go dominate Todd Bowles and this weak Bucs team.
I mean, the result this weekend being a win, whether it's dominant or it's just a win, that's expected. Like, they are the better team. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they're a good team, but they're on the road. You're at home. I think they're about a touchdown favorite, which speaks a lot to how, you know, Vegas feels about this matchup. I think the Buccaneers might be like plus 270. The last time I looked at some of the sports books. So by everything and by that, the Lions are expected to win and at least win by a touchdown. So, I mean, even this week with the injuries, that line was what? -3 for the Lions, 3.5. Like, it was still pretty close. They feel differently about the Bucs. The injuries, I think, will affect them. No Antoine Winfield, but I do think the Bucs are a good team. They're a playoff team. I like this game to be closer more so than probably the Cardinals game. If I had to pick one, I would say this game's closer because I think defensively the Bucs have more that they could throw at the Lions offense, at least their front seven. Now their secondary is a different story, which I'm sure we'll be talking a lot about Amon-Ra St. Brown. We'll talk about the passing offense, why we think they'll get back on track. But that Bucs front seven is very good. And Baker Mayfield's playing well right now. I mean, that's just the facts. You know, he's playing well right now. Mike Evans is Mike Evans, and Chris Godwin is Chris Godwin. So secondary will be tested once again. But again, the Lions should go out there and win regardless. Like, I wouldn't be if they win by a touchdown, 10 points. I wouldn't be shocked. If they win by 3, I wouldn't be shocked. I don't know if they'll blow out the Bucs. I think that would be a hell of a statement win. But the Lions should and will win this game. That's how it's going to go. You have to go 2-0. You're chasing the number 1 seed. The 49ers just beat down on the Jets. I don't know who they play week 2, but the Eagles are 1-0. Like, we're in this thing now. Like, you can't afford to just drop games early. Go beat the Bucs, especially now with Jordan Love out. They're going to drop a couple games. Like, it's go time.
Yeah, you can widen the gap quick. Like I already said, I think the Lions they've widened the gap after week 1 with the Packers losing Jordan Love, and I think the Vikings are just the Vikings this year, and the Bears. You saw how their offense looked. Just like an example, when you look at the spread and the numbers that you were saying there, Jeff, the Lions I think might have opened up maybe at like 6 or something. I'm not 100% sure what the number opened up in the sports.
I think you said it was 7. Boo.
Yes, yesterday it was 7. I don't know what it opened up at, but yesterday it was 7. Now it's already at 7.5. So it's moving farther and farther away. Like, just to give you an example, the Ravens are at home on Sunday versus the Raiders, the Las Vegas Raiders, one of the worst teams in football. They're 8.5-point favorites. So, like, I don't see a gap from, like, the Ravens to the Raiders from the Lions to the Bucs. So, like, Vegas, the NFL, and a lot of people think, like, this is just a take care of business game for the Lions. Like, this isn't like a game that like I think it's going to be a tougher game than people think because I'm higher on the Bucs than most people. But the public eye in Vegas, like, they're looking at this game like, hey, Lions should take care of business at home. Like, I think what the people are kind of looking at, they're like, there's no way the Detroit Lions have back-to-back bad games, especially in Ford Field. And they don't think that's going to happen. And you know what? You shouldn't. Like, if you're a Super Bowl contender, like, Dan Campbell better have this football team ready to go at the end of the day. Like, this offense, it struggled a little last week. This is the top 3 offense in the NFL. Every single offense last week was rusty. To your point, Jeff, when you were talking about quarterback play and all of that, like, everyone was rusty last week. So knock the rust off. Jared Goff admitted that he played bag. He's going to knock the rust off. You could go out there and win by a touchdown. I think it's going to be a little closer than people think. Like, I do think this Bucs team's good even with injuries. But this is like a game, like, dude, just take care of business. Like, don't drop this game. This is one of those games that if you drop, you're going to look back in week 17 when you're playing the 49ers and you're going to be either looking right outside of the 1 seed, and you're going to be like, man, like what game could we have back? Like that's this Bucks game. Like go out there and take it. You're 7.5-point favorites. You're expected to win this game.
Yeah, I mean, and Scottie Montgomery, he talked to the media today. I'm sure we'll get into that as well. But as far as this Bucks defense goes, it's still going to be very good. But you look at Shaq Barrett's not there. Antoine Winfield could possibly be missing. And they're moving off Devin White for KJ Britt, who I really like KJ Britt as a linebacker. But there are points, and this is what Scottie said, where it's like up front. They're very physical. They're very aggressive, but they're also very fundamentally sound. But they're not going to be very fundamentally sound every play. So that's why I think when Jahmyr Gibbs is going to get going, Jamison Williams is going to get going, Amon-Ra St. Brown's going to be going. That's what Vegas is saying. And Booner, to your point, I know I had the 49ers too, but if the Lions go out there and they have doesn't even have to be dominating, they win by 7 points, 10 points in dominating fashion, then I definitely will be like, okay, Lions, 49ers, we can have a discussion. Obviously, if the 49ers keep rolling, it'll have to wait. But I still think the Lions are in that upper echelon of teams, and they can change that. If they go out and they beat Tampa Bay and handle them, if they make Baker Mayfield look like Baker Mayfield was before he went to Tampa, I think it's very possible, and I do think that the Lions will walk out of there with a W.
I mean, I think it is I think you could argue a little bit of a blessing that they got to face Matthew Stafford regardless of the injuries because of how good he is as a player. And now you're going, okay, we got Matthew Stafford, check, even though 4 offensive linemen, but the way he gets rid of the ball so quick, it's a good test for this defensive line and good test for this defense because the guy was absolutely slinging the ball. And then you get to face at home again, Baker, who's I think just a tier below Matthew. So now it's like, okay, you already saw the I think the best quarterback in the NFC, if not one of the. Baker, I think, is playing really well, but Baker's prone. You can get Baker. He's not. Matthew is one of one when it comes to getting rid of the football as quick as he does. So this is a good opportunity for this defensive line to respond, and that's really what I'm going to be hammering now with the return of DJ Reader. I talked about it yesterday on my impact player, especially defensively. DJ Reader returning. Who knows if he'll be on a snap count? But those guys around him this week are going to get revenge. Especially last week, they played really well, but they just weren't able to get to Matthew, and they had 2 sacks. Even though the pressure, they did their job and they played well. This week, I expect double the sacks. Like I expect him to go out there and get 4 sacks, and I think a couple of those, or not couple, but maybe 1 or 2 could come from the interior with Aleem McNeil. I think Aleem McNeil this week with the return of DJ Reader is going to benefit. Even though Baker's a little more mobile, but I think with those guys getting the push from the inside, Aiden and Davenport will be there to clean it up. So, again, the defensive line this week, that's what I'm going to be paying attention to, especially if you're allowing Baker time to hit Mike Evans downfield, which you do not want. You do not want. But if you do, Kirby Joseph's there, and he's been spectacular so far. So, Lions defense is another opportunity for them to prove why they're going to be a top 10 defense this season. I got a video I want to show you guys here. Scottie Montgomery. We'll play it. Him talking about how they've been kind of, distributing carries between Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. I think it's a great video to watch. So let's hear from the running back coach, Scottie Montgomery. This is credit to the Detroit Lions. Let's hear what he had to say.
Decide how that workload is going to go. Is that something you decide before the game where you're like, oh, we want to start with him and then maybe go back to him later? I guess just how do you figure that out?
There's some ebb and flow to it. There's some feel to it, right? But at the same time, there's also this thought process that, we need to make sure both of them are getting touches, right? And a lot of it you can kind of look at it from a standpoint is if someone gets hot, in the game, just like a basketball player, he gets hot, you're very rarely going to see somebody sub in there to get him out of there, right? So once a guy gets hot, especially with me, I got so much respect for those guys. We'll leave the hot guy in. And at the end of that game, David, he was hot. It was like watching Steph, right? He was on fire. So we mixed it just a little bit to make sure, Ja got some perimeter touches and some interior run touches, which was good for us. And then just the scheme of what we were doing there really showed up in that last drive.
And they're going to ride the hot hand. That's what it's going to be. Jahmyr Gibbs, we expect. We talked about it yesterday, 1,500 yards from scrimmage. Yes, we think he can get there, if not close to. But a guy who'll be running behind Penei Sewell did not practice today. He was limited. No practice for Penei Sewell. As well, no practice for Iffy, no practice for Kirby, no practice for Davenport, who I just brought up, which I'm not too concerned. A couple of those guys are just kind of nursing injuries. So I think if not all of them will play. Limited today was also Jamison Williams. So there's the update there. Real quick, I want to mention before you guys kind of comment on the backfield. Speaking of David Montgomery, get your shirts, man. Bully, David Montgomery. It's in the store now. And you see it here. It's a beautiful, beautiful design.
Look at that. Look at that.
Beautiful shirt.
Bully Ball, officialctsports.com. Get your merch. All right. Just wanted to show that off real quick. But boys, Jahmyr Gibbs, Dave Montgomery, what do you think of the matchup this week against a very good front seven in which the Lions have struggled to run the ball in both matchups they face the Bucs? It's going to be a test for these guys, Dave.
Yeah, I mean, to what Scottie Montgomery said, I think it's interesting. This is what it's going to be like all year long. This is why, for me, when you look at David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs, I had mentioned, I think both of them get 1,000 rushing yards this year. It's going to be back and forth with these guys. Every other game, you're going to have a different hot hand. They're going to have different guys who they're giving the rock to. And I think this week, there's probably no telling if it's going to be Jahmyr Gibbs or D-Mon again. You're not going to know. What people don't realize is David Montgomery didn't get a carry almost through the whole fourth quarter before this whole thing went down at the end of the fourth and going into overtime. I don't think he had a carry since the 11-minute mark in the fourth quarter. It was Jahmyr Gibbs that was getting the reps at that point. And even down the stretch in the fourth quarter, Gibbs was out there at points as well. So I think it's all right, they're going to just keep continuing to rotate. They're going to continue to split carries. I think almost said D-Mont, but Scottie Montgomery, the Montgomery really gets me. But Scottie Montgomery had mentioned they played 31 and 30 snaps each. It was almost dead even. And I think that's what it's going to be like. They're going to find different ways. And I think this Sunday, you're going to see it a lot with the defense you're going up against with the Bucs. Because that front seven, it's this is a legit defense you're going up against. Even with some injuries that they have, there is still going to be if Kalijah Kancey somehow ends up playing, I don't think he practiced today. But if he ends up playing, they have a great front defensive line. And I know we have and I know you have the number one offensive line in the NFL, but this is going to be a challenge for you. You're going to have to go out there and you're going to have to dominate just like you did with the Rams. And they struggled at points with the Rams. So I think it's going to be interesting to see how they continue to do this whole Jahmyr Gibbs D-Mont thing. I love though how Scottie's hey, whoever has the hot hand's going to get the rock. That's just what it is. And it might be might be a different player in the first half than it is in the second half, or the second quarter than it is in the fourth quarter. But the fact that they just constantly are trying to rotate these guys and get these guys going and get them going and get them going, I think that's very valuable to where a defense think about. And I know Todd Bowles is one of the best defenses. His defenses are always very, very good. Think about him trying to go into this week preparing. Who do you prepare for? You have to have multiple. You have to have multiple things just ready to go and schemes ready to go for D-Mont and Jahmyr Gibbs. And Scottie Montgomery mentioned today as well. He was they literally both. He was I've never seen a running back duo that both guys can do everything: catch the ball in the backfield and run the ball between the tackles and on the outside. Do all three of those things at an elite level. He was I've never seen it. You talk about the Mark Ingram and Kamara thing, Kamara was elite at catching the ball in the backfield, and Ingram was elite at running between the tackles and running the ball. These guys can do it all. He was he's never seen that. So it's a matchup nightmare for defenses. So I think, hey, establish the run early, boys. Hey,
yep.
I'm not going to say that, but establish the run. How about that?
Establish the run, Booner. I think you were spitting. There's nothing that I disagree with. I think, again, we're going to see very even amount of carries between David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs again. But if I had to pick one guy who's going to kind of have the hot game, if there's going to be one of them, I think it's going to be Jahmyr Gibbs, because his defense is very good. Like I just said, it's very physical. It's very fundamentally sound. So I think David Montgomery's still going to get his 50, 60 yards. But there's going to be one play, maybe two plays. You saw it last year in the playoff game where Jahmyr Gibbs just goes. There's going to be one break in the defense because I think Amon-Ra's going to be doing his thing. I think Sam Laporta is going to be doing his thing. The receiving gore, the passing game, it's going to get back on the roll. They know about David Montgomery. David Montgomery is going to be averaging probably another 4 to 5 yards per carry. But I just think with the Jahmyr Gibbs, whether it's through the air or on the ground, you're going to start seeing Jahmyr Gibbs start to make plays just because this defense, very physical, but Jahmyr Gibbs, being the running back that he is, he knows how to take advantage of that, set defenders up, make a miss, and then he's a guy that can take it to the house. David Montgomery can as well, but I think Jahmyr Gibbs just does it with a little bit more ease. So that's why if I had to pick one, it'd be Jahmyr. But David Montgomery is still going to be D-Mon. Still starting in my fantasy league.
Yeah, me too. Actually, I'm starting him in my flex spot. But I think what Jameer brings to the table is the ability to be a slot receiver as well. Like his pass catching upside, I think will be interesting this week, especially if the blitz is coming. Jared gets rid of the ball. You got Jahmyr Gibbs, who is an absolute yards after catch machine. So I think Jahmyr this week, they're going to kind of alter. Demont's going to set the tone like he always does and be that physical runner. And then you have Jahmyr Gibbs, who I think bounces back from last week. Not that he played bad, but he'll get back to what we expected out of Jahmyr. I will bring this up, guys. I have a matchup that I think the Lions can exploit. I just mentioned it earlier, but I have data to back it up. Last week, this is PFF grades, and I know if you don't like them, whatever. But if you watch the game, it does align kind of with the grades. If you watch the game, it does align with the grades. I looked at the pass blocking data for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Do you know the lowest pass blocking grades was their starting guards, both, in their center, Graham Barton, who's a rookie. Mm-hmm. So the interior of that offensive line, you have Luke and Tristan, each tackle. Those guys are great tackles. But both guards and center, Cody Mock had a 41.6 pass blocking grade. Ben Bredesen had a 54 pass blocking grade. Graham Barton had a 63.6 pass blocking grade. Throw in the tight end. Cade Otton had a 59.5 pass blocking grade. So
tough.
And guess what? I'll flip this on you guys to spin it, because I know the Commanders got a pretty good interior defensive line. They do. So obviously, they struggled there. I really believe this is the game that Aleem McNeil and DJ Reader have to show up. And will show up. DJ Reader just being there, and then him just making everyone else better. What do you guys think of that? Exploiting that interior offensive line. How bad they were last week. Because we know Tristan's an all-pro. Tristan's great.
That
interior, Boone, a little shaky.
I agree with you on that. And like DJ Reader coming back, this is the perfect week for him to come back. I don't think he'll be on a snap count. I think DJ Reader's going to be full. If he's playing, he's a full go. So like with the DJ Reader, Aleem McNeil, the interesting matchup to me will be the Aiden Hutchinson, Tristan Wirfs. I'm interested to see how that works out. But even then, like typically Aiden Hutchinson's getting double team. Like, you know who should have a game on Sunday? It should be Aleem McNeil. Like, in my opinion, like I think it's an Aleem McNeil type of game. Like DJ Reader's there. Even if DJ Reader's coming off an injury, that deep offensive line, they're going to scheme and try and double team and try and do everything they can to make sure DJ Reader doesn't wreak havoc. Aleem McNeil, then you have obviously Aiden Hutchinson over there. Aleem's going to have one-on-one matchups all night long. If he can go out there with those low pass grades that you just named, Jeff, he should have a field day.
I agree.
Aleem McNeil should have a field day on Sunday. And I expect to go see – we didn't see him much last week. We got to see him a little bit. And I actually went back and watched the All-22, and Aleem was wreaking havoc. It just didn't show up in the stat sheet. But he was out there dominating, it felt like, still to me when I watched it back. He should go out there this week, and it should show up in the stat sheet. Now, the one thing I am worried about is because I was expecting this week to have Aiden Hutchinson, Aleem McNeil, DJ Reader, and Marcus Davenport. Marcus Davenport's already not practicing, and it's a groin injury. And groin injuries, I don't think are like not something you want to have. Like those are, I feel like a groin's like, I could be wrong, like completely wrong. I'm not a doctor. I've never been an athletic trainer. I don't know. But in the legs and the groin area, I always feel like those are touchy injuries. And and I didn't hear anything much out of the coaches today in regards to it. And if I missed it, someone could throw it in the chat. I'm keeping an eye on the Marcus Davenport thing, because Klotz, to your point, all offseason long was Davenport can be really good, and we saw it on Sunday if he stays healthy. And he's already missing practice come week 1 because of an injury. I'm interested. Like, if you have all 4 of those guys, and then you have Levi coming in off the bench, and you still have Josh Pascal, and you have Kyle Petco, and then potentially maybe James Houston, like that's a great defense line to roll out there. But the injury bug already with the defense line when it comes to Matt Davenport, we're already talking about it, which I'm not a fan of.
Yeah. I mean, if there's going to be a week where Marcus Davenport is going to be missing, this is probably the worst one, because I think the key to winning this game is making Baker Mayfield uncomfortable, putting pressure on him, and especially if they can do it up front, that's the key to winning this game, because Baker Mayfield, in his last 3 seasons, when pressured, he has a passer rating of 52.6. So that's like not good. Like obviously any quarterback under pressure is not going to have a good passer rating. But when you look at the quarterbacks that's comparable with, Taylor Heineke, Zach Wilson, and Kyler Murray. So when you look at that, Kyler Murray actually blew my mind when I saw that as well. But Baker Mayfield, I know people love when Baker has those moments, if you're a Baker fan, where he gets riled up, he gets excited, he runs for the first down, he's pointing, getting the crowd fired up. But right after those plays is when Baker Mayfield throws incompletions, when he throws interceptions. Get Baker Mayfield uncomfortable, and the most important pressure you can put on a quarterback is the middle of the field. Getting pressure up the middle, because it blocks his slot wide receiver if he's going over the middle, his vision of him, the tight end, everything. If Mike Evans is running a post route, he doesn't have time to do it because he got to run out of the pocket and he's running himself out of the play. The second you make Baker Mayfield try to make those Baker Mayfield-esque plays where he tries to play like Patrick Mahomes, that's when you win the game. When Baker Mayfield can sit in the pocket cleanly and go, oh, Chris Godwin, oh, Mike Evans. That's what's going to happen because we know Rachaad White's not going to get loose on the ground. So if Aleem McNeil shows up and he does what he wants to do, he gets those 2 sacks we were expecting last week, that's when you can look at Brad, when you can look at Dan, when you can look at AG and be like, when Tampa Bay, the playoff team that we expected them to be, because the Tampa's going to be in the playoffs, and I single-handedly game wrecked, you need me. In the playoffs, you need me for situations like this. We saw Aleem McNeil dominate games like he did against Saquon Barkley and the New York Giants, where he single-handedly shut them down. That's what you need to see out of Aleem McNeil this week, especially if Marcus Davenport's not playing.
Well, let's hear from Terrell Williams. He talked about this past week, getting to the quarterback, but not getting sacks, but the pressures, and we'll hear from him directly. Here he is.
Times where Stafford got away from the grasp bigger guys. What is the emphasis and the coaching points on just finishing and making sure you get
Yeah, you always got to take one more step. And when you're playing guys, it's funny. I was talking to one of my former players who's a coach now, Ryan Kerrigan. I coached him at Purdue a long time ago. But the players always remember the sacks that they missed. And when you watch them, there's a lot of missed sacks. And the common theme there is take one more step. Like sometimes guys are, and then there's quarterbacks that are elusive. And this quarterback that we're playing this week, Mayfield, is one of those guys. But you like to see them all finish. But what happens is if a guy misses, the second guy's got to go clean him up. And I think we have to do a better job of that going into this football game.
Hey, I just want to throw this out there because when I watched Terrell Williams talk throughout the whole – and if you guys haven't after the show tonight, go watch Terrell Williams' press conference. There's a reason that we have called him the best defensive line coach in the NFL. Like being able to and it's not just what he said, the comments there, guys, that he said, like his conversations with the media in regards to trying to figure out how to get these pressures into sacks and the defensive line that they built over the offseason, him and Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell. He is such an elite defense. He has such an elite defensive line mind. And for him to be like you guys remember last year, all these pressures were happening, and I'm drawing a blank on the former D-line coach. I asked for him out after Todd Walsh. And there was nothing against him. I asked for him out after week 8 because there were all these pressures, and there was no solution to hey, how do we turn these into sacks? How do we improve? How do we get better? Like Terrell Williams after week 1, you have 26 pressures, the third most in the NFL, but with only have 2 sacks. It's all right. Instead of him being oh no, pressures are good. We're all right. Let's figure out how do we get to the next step of doing that. And he says, hey, I tell the guys, it's literally getting to the next step of that progression is literally taking one more step. Get to the quarter, you're right there, and you're missing those tackles, you're missing those sacks, and you're getting the pressure. You're just not finishing. And then there was another point in this conversation that he had to where he literally, guys, the way he broke it down, talking about Davenport and Hutch on both sides, being able to absolutely just crush the pocket and having DJ Reader and Aleem McNeil up the middle. He was like a guy like Baker, you create a box that this guy cannot escape, and you crush him in that box, and he will never be able to throw the ball. And he was like, we need to get to that next step. We were crushing Matthew Stafford last week in that box, and he was getting the throws out so fast because he's so elite. And he was like, now we need to get to the next step to where we're crushing and we're finishing and getting sacks. I think Terrell Williams is going to be an absolute what's the term, a godsend to this football team and this defense and this D line. You now have the talent on the D line, and you now have an actual defensive line coach maybe the best in the league. Like, I'm telling people when our show's done, go watch the full press conference because it's unbelievable. This guy is elite at his job.
Yeah,
I agree, but I have literally nothing to add because he said everything spot on.
I love Terrell Williams. He is like a blessing. I mean, it's nice to have a guy like that because the knowledge, all the knowledge he brings from developing players, and you have guys that we look at like Mekhi Wingo or Ali McNeil, some of the guys that he's like, oh, this guy can help these guys. He can help Aiden Hutchinson. He can help Marcus Davenport. Like, he brings a lot to the table. And I don't even think it's just going to be the defensive line. I looked back last year when the Lions faced the Bucs in the playoffs. In that playoff game, Brian Branch had a sack. Iffy had a sack and a half. And, Germ had a half a sack, which, it's kind of like, hey, Germ's out there too. But they had a 2.5 sacks from their safeties.
Yeah.
Maybe you start seeing some of that this week as well. Like, hey, and you brought it up, Lucas, with how Baker is under pressure. Why not send Brian Branch? Why not send? I don't know if Iffy will be playing. We'll see. But why not send Iffy? Like, if he's
both of them last year in the playoffs.
Exactly.
Games.
So I think we will see not just the defensive line when they send guys and they blitz Baker Mayfield. You're going to see maybe Brian Branch playing nickel. He comes off the edge. Boom. Meek Robertson they have this year. He's capable of doing that as well. I think you'll start to see some interesting packages because I'm assuming if he's been dealing with an injury, I don't know if he'll play, but Meek Robertson.
If he took a step back, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. I think, but you get the point. Expect some of that creativity this week. I think you'll see it.
I am very interested in just like the defensive player of the year hype that I've been trying to push out there into the narrative in the national media with Aiden Hutchinson. I'm interested to see how he is versus Tristan Wirfs because last year he had the sack. And he had, I just looked, he had 3 quarterback hits in that playoff game and a sack. So, like, he was getting pressure and he was making plays. I'm interested to see what Hutch does. Like, I think this is a big challenge for him. He spoke today to the media too, and he said, like, he learned last year how getting all these pressures, like, to take, like, the pressure off himself when it comes to getting sacks. Like, if he's getting the pressures and he's making plays and winning football games, like, do the sacks really mean that much? Like, yeah, you want to get them as long as you're winning. And, like, obviously he wants to get the sacks and put the numbers up. But as long as he's making an impact in the game, I'm just interested to see how this O-line or this D-line does versus, like, this Bucs O-line. Yeah, and I like that too, Jeff. Send the house. Send some safeties.
Send the house.
Send people at Baker Mayfield. Make Baker Mayfield just in distress the whole game.
If you make Baker's arm beat you and not his mind, you win that game. Like, if he can read the coverage, he has a chance to put that team in the game. But if you're putting him under pressure in a man-to-man coverage, he's going to miss a couple of throws. Like, he's not the most accurate quarterback in the league. So that's how you do it.
Does it worry you guys? And this is just kind of going off this because we are talking about sending some safeties like Brian Branch, and if he's not playing, I'm not saying he's not playing, but
probably not.
He was out today, so he was limited practice at one point last week, and now he's all of a sudden out, and he didn't play on Sunday. So guessing that he's getting worse. But like Kirby Joseph was out of practice today. What did it say? With the hamstring, with the hammy. Like, that's not good. And he didn't practice at all because of a hammy. Maybe like you sit back and you're like, hopefully that's just like a little bit of a tweak and he's just like sitting out for safe measures today. But like if you're down Iffy and Kirby and to your point, Jeff, like you want to send guys and you want to play, like now Brandon Joseph is stepping in and you're moving guys around. Maybe I don't know. It's an interesting situation going on right now with that defense.
You're going to need as many DBs as you can. I mean, Mike Evans, especially with Iffy being out most likely, but Mike Evans last year had like $150. Remember that run? It was like number 1 wide receivers in the playoffs were just going off every single week. Mike Evans was one of those guys. I mean, I don't know the exact stats, but he had well over 100 yards.
And they already – they last week, the reason James Houston didn't play is because they were like, we need more DBs on the field. Like for them to be able to have extra guys out there for special teams and in the secondary with Iffy out. So like – You're potentially down another guy in the secondary. That's going to be. I'm interested to see how that plays out this week.
I'm curious.
Campbell better step up because you can't sit like if Kirby's out and you got to have Brandon Joseph. I don't think you can just rely on Brandon Joseph being back there continuously. So you got to get pressure somewhere else. You send Anzo, you send Derek Barnes, you send Jack Campbell. I think that's how you'd be able to do it. It does worry me, though. Like, I think it's too early to tell about Kirby. Like, I don't think anybody should be panicking or extremely confident yet. I think, like, if it gets to Friday and there's still no noise about Kirby and his hamstrings bother him, I'd be a little bit worried. But it's probably just because if he is injured, they can't risk anything with Kirby getting hurt during the week as well.
Can I give a prediction?
Go ahead.
Derek Barnes sack on Sunday. Book it.
Go with his interception to close the game in the playoffs. So
Give me a Derek Barnes sack. He's going to be playing that Sam spot, getting to the court, getting to Baker a little bit.
He's been putting his hand in the dirt too. They've been using him like that. So I like that. I like that prediction. I mean, what about a future Tim Patrick sighting? Is there a prediction on when that happens? I mean, what do we do? When is that go into full effect? Because I think it was spoken about today. Allen Robinson and Tim Patrick still battling on the practice squad, going to get called up at some point. I don't know when we see the Tim Patrick era in Detroit. Maybe next week. Like, when does that eventually come to fruition? I really don't. I don't know what to expect.
When you need him. I mean, they don't need him right now. Like, I think they saw Jamison Williams, wide receiver 2, stepped up big time. They didn't really need to go to Khalif. Amon-Ra still didn't show up, and they still were able to win the game. If I had to, be like, by this time, it'd probably be again after the bye week because it's so early. You let him kind of acclimate. You get him a full game plan if he's going to play against Dallas. But at the same time, like Tim Patrick or Allen Robinson, they can still be activated, and you won't see them on the field because they're at the bottom of the depth chart. So it'll be interesting to see. If I had to guess, probably around the bye week or if there's an injury to happen. But until then, probably looking at the same receiver core right now. If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Boone, can I propose something to you?
Yeah, go ahead, because I have a statement after you're done. So I want to hear what your proposal is first before I make mine.
Maybe not a proposal, but it's my take on this whole thing. I don't think, and this is why I'm going to go to you on this. Are we, after seeing week 1, I understand that Ben Johnson's offense, they spread the ball around. I'm well aware they're going to get more guys involved. We've seen it happen. Are we seeing it now play out? If Tim Patrick's out there, how much is he going to do? Let's be realistic here. Okay, you see how good J-Mo is. You see Amon-Ra's going to bounce back. Sam Laporta. They didn't really even use Khalif last week, which I know will change. They're going to use him more and more. Jahmyr Gibbs will be, just like we said it before the season, he's in the passing game as well. I mean, what's going on with Tim Patrick? Maybe we don't even need Tim Patrick, Boone. I'm just saying it, Boone. What do you think? I'm just saying it. I'm throwing it out there. What do you think?
So, as people know, I was the one that was really big on the wide receiver 4 with this Detroit Lions group all offseason. We went to so many training camps, and I was Donovan Peoples-Jones isn't it. From the jump and mini camp, like, we have to go get someone. After watching Sunday night, I will say this. My tone has changed a little bit when it comes to this wide receiver situation. And it's weird because they didn't play good on offense. So it's like, how can you even tell? Like, the fact that you don't need another wide receiver because Khalif, if you're able to go do what you did on Sunday night and win a game still, even though it was overtime and it was basically essentially you won the game running the ball with D-Mott, absolute bully, shout out, go buy the merch. I just think, Amon-Ra's not going to do what he did ever again this season. Like, Amon-Ra's going to be involved. Khalif Raymond will never not get a target again this season. I will guarantee you that. Like, Khalif Raymond will start to get more targets because his offense is going to run more plays. This was the conversation on Monday morning, guys, when we got in that little argument. And my head that I was thinking was, like, I get where people are thinking, hey, maybe they're just going to run the ball the whole time. They didn't get to any plays, it felt like. Like, they only had a certain amount of possessions that were longer possessions. I don't know what their play count, essentially. I guess I can go do some homework tonight and see their average play count on offense last season to see how big of a difference it was. They didn't have a lot of play counts or plays that they ran. And I think Khalif gets involved. Amon-Ra's obviously going to get involved. Laporta's going to get involved more. Knowing that D-Mont's going to be basically the main running back when it comes to being the bell cow. Jahmyr Gibbs is going to get more touches off, in the pass game. I don't think there's like a Jeff, to your point, like I'm a little with you. Like, it's not that I want to change up my narrative and switch what I was thinking all offseason, because I still think it's good to have a big X wide receiver out there and have that. But I think it's more so, and in my mind kind of switched this weekend. I think it's just situationally. Like, I think it's a situational thing with the Tim Patrick. And I think they're just sitting there and they're like, hey, no one's picking these guys up off the practice squad. They're on your practice squad. So you're sitting there and you're like, let these guys just keep getting better. And even with Donovan Peoples-Jones and Allen Robinson and Tim Patrick, like, let these guys just keep working, learning the offense, especially Allen Robinson and Tim Patrick. Let them just get Ben Johnson's offense to figure this out. Because, like, if they do end up, like, if Tim Patrick ends up getting back to what he was before the injury, that's a weapon, and that's something like you add to this offense that you don't have. Like, Dan said it all the time through training camp. He was like, yeah, we just don't have an X wide receiver. Like, and he said, we'll go play all season without one if we need to. Like, we have guys that can fill in spots and make plays. Like, and we have schemes around it. But if you add an X wide receiver to this offense, that changes so much more. Like, that makes you that much versatile on offense. And you have another piece of the offense that someone else has, like, they have to take account to. So, like, if Tim Patrick gets to a point to where he's healthy back from that injury and you feel comfortable enough, I think there's situational things that they're going to put them in, and they'll move Tim Patrick up. This week, I don't know if it'll happen this week, and maybe it will, but I'm not sitting here like you have to get one of these guys up. You need another wide receiver. And no, I'm not worried about it. Like, if they felt like they needed an extra wide receiver that bad, it wouldn't have been Tom Kennedy, and it would have been Donovan Peoples-Jones on Sunday. Yeah. So, like, they obviously felt like it's not that big of a deal to them. But situationally, or knock on wood, if there's an injury that kind of arises, all right, you've got 3 vets sitting back there ready to roll. And I think that's a very positive thing to think about with it when it comes to depth. Hey, the people who say I don't change my tone sometimes, there you go.
Hey, hey, Boone, I agree with you 100%. Like, everything you just said, I'm in absolute lockstep. I think Tim Patrick, in terms of need, I'll concede to they need an X. Okay, 100%. Yeah, I'm with you. That's fair. They don't have too many of those on the roster. He'll be good situationally. I agree with that. Now, in terms of how much of the Tim Patrick show you'll see, Klotzy, I think he'll be more of a it's not about him as a player. Like, someone put in there, I think it was Sick argument. Shout out to him. He was like, oh, he caught 100 in the last 104. I'm not coming at him he's a good player. I'm just saying, to Boone's point, like everything Boone was talking about, like, how much of Tim Patrick do you think, in your opinion, Klotzy, like, how much you think when he does come back, what does it look like?
He'd be like situation, like I said it before, like when J-Mo was a rookie, the only time you saw him out there was when it was in the I-form formation and Jason Cabinda and Jamal Williams were out there. And pretty much every fucking time it was a run. And you just keep Jamison Williams out there as a decoy as a threat down the field, and J-Mo could block. I think Tim Patrick could be used on like a 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2. If you want to take a deep shot to him, go for it. But I don't think that's why you have him out there, more so to block. And in the red zone, I think Tim Patrick in the red zone is where he's best at. He's a 6'4" wide receiver, 200+ pounds. He's very physical. So even like you could throw up a jump ball to him. He can use his body to create leverage for a slant or a comeback, anything like that. But I don't think he's a guy that's going to have 400 yards for this offense. I could see him having 100 to 200 yards probably max, and maybe a touchdown or two situationally late in the season if there's an injury. But I just think, to what you guys were just saying, like, having those vets back there, it's something that you'd rather have compared to undrafted rookie. Like, if they were to have Caden Davis out there, like, I think all of us would be stressing more than compared to Tim Patrick or Allen Robinson. But it's going to be Tim Patrick. I think Allen Robinson, like, it's not like I want him off the team, but I don't think we'll ever see Allen Robinson on the field, at least during the regular season.
Yeah, we all agree. We're all on lockstep there. For people that are just joining, in a couple of minutes here, John Maakaron will be joining the program every single Wednesday. Legend. He does that. Can't wait to pick the Doc's brain on this. I want to bring up some comments here. Sick argument. Okay, a little more detail. Ben Johnson last year, 70% of games they hit 5 different wide receivers, not including Laporta, and the rest was 4. And it's a great point. Like, I get that. The ball does get spread around. I guess my question, and this is just me genuinely asking, and you guys can answer this, with the emergence now of J-Mo, with Jameer getting more targets, like, does that, and now with other guys they have that are capable, like, I think Isaiah Williams is a good player. If his numbers called, I think he can contribute. Tim Patrick, I think he will contribute. So, yeah, like, that makes sense. None of us are arguing they're only going to use 3-4 guys. I think it's just how much of Tim Patrick will they use, and we all agree situationally, because at the end of the day, you have guys that are going to take that jump statistically in the receiving realm. And that's what we've been saying for the last couple of months, and you're going to see that play out, in my opinion.
Yeah, I just felt like on Sunday, it was a little shocking that other guys like Amon-Ra and like Khalif weren't getting more involved. I just think it was just the way the game played out, and it was a one-off. I again, like the Tom Kennedy, and Tom Kennedy was in there on offensive snaps. He was blocking, but he was out there like there was times where I think he ran a couple routes, and to be honest, he just didn't get a look. But like I do think, like to Klotzy's point, like you get Tim Patrick up. Again, it adds another element to the offense that Dan and them are looking for. I don't think it's something that they're not trying to do, and Tim Patrick isn't good enough. I think it's just, all right, whenever he's ready. Like, that's it. Like, hey, when he's ready, and then you do add that other receiver. Like, I look at it a lot like 2 seasons ago with DJ Chark. Maybe I'm a little off on that, but I do look at it like DJ did get a lot of targets, but just more so like the downfield plays. Because, like, J-Mo is downfield, but he's everywhere. Like, J-Mo can play anywhere. He's not like a true X, in my opinion. Like, he can play in the slot. He can go in and out. Like, he does everything. I just think, like, the DJ Chark, how DJ Chark was just an X, and he would, like, those deep balls, and he takes away the top of the coverage. Like, that's where I think that benefits. And I think they're sitting there waiting for one of these guys to be ready, because that does, like, your offense changes. Klotz, I'm sure you as a wide receiver, like when you had a guy that could take away the deep threat, and then you had a guy like Amon-Ra St. Brown and J-Mo, if you have all 3 of those guys out there and Sam Laporta at tight end, like what are you going to do as a defense? It's impossible. And now you were talking, like, let's talk about Jahmyr Gibbs coming out of the backfield too. Like, it's impossible. And that's even if Tim Patrick has 0 catches. The presence of it, I think, is what's like known. But I'm not going to sit here and say like they need it, because we saw last week they can win games without even a guy like Amon-Ra going out there and putting up numbers.
And I'll say, I mean, it's going to be hard to win games without John Maakaron. I mean, the guy is integral to this operation, and we love him so much. He joins us every single Wednesday, and he always, drops knowledge on the fellas, and we get to pick his brain. Hey, the Doc was involved today. You watched some of those player interviews and the coaching interviews? Doc was spitting some questions. Right?
Yeah, he had some good questions today, too.
I would argue some of the better questions.
I think some of the best.
Just kissing his ass because he's waiting in the lobby. Let's bring him in. The one, the only. Check it out, Detroit Lions on Sports Illustrated for all your Lions stuff in the description. Please welcome host of the Detroit Sports Podcast as well, Mr. John Maakaron. John?
Fellas, thank you for the compliments. Yeah, I had to step up my question game this year. I knew that there's a lot of things that people want to know about, and I always have that in mind that, look, the Detroit Lions, there's so many opportunities that you have to ask questions, and the people want to know certain things. And I just thought that today I did have my A game. So you know what that means? Toast with real American beer.
Yes, sir.
The beer of crunch time and the DOC. That's a good time for everybody, man. It was a good day, and it was a good week to start the season off 1-0. The first time we're talking after a game. What do you got, boys?
You know what? That is true. First time
that beer looks good.
After a game. Real American beer, big shout out. Also, again, this interview brought to you guys by BetUS. Doc, I got to pick your brain, because this week they're facing a pretty good front seven. Actually, a defense that in the last 2 matchups, the Lions struggled to run the football a little bit. What do you expect, at least from an offensive perspective, how they execute, especially what they did last year against the Bucs? And Amon-Ra St. Brown was an absolute nightmare against these guys in, I believe, both games, but especially the one in Tampa.
Yeah, no doubt, right? Because, look, Dan Campbell's always going to want to establish the run. You saw this offensive line really step up in overtime. David Montgomery's a beast. But I do think that, this game poses more of an opportunity for the passing game, screen game. Jahmyr Gibbs maybe is the breakout player this week. But, man, when you look at the Detroit Lions, it's so fun to sit back. We all can sit back and smile, in that this football team is built in such a way that if they start the game and they're starting to notice that, hey, they can't run the football and Tampa has an edge, they'll make the adjustment and they'll start to pass it, and they'll start to do a lot more. Guys, it's crazy. And I've said it multiple times. The Lions won a football game in the regular season without Amon-Ra St. Brown and Sam Laporta hitting 100 yards combined. In the old days, that game would have been a loss. Matthew Stafford would have hit that third down pass. But nope, now with this new regime and what is going on, I just think that this football team is able to attack in a myriad of ways. And this is the best. I'm anticipating this game probably even more than the Rams game because they're going to improve offensively. And if this defense can just steady the force, keep it between 20 and 23 points, I think the Lions, in a race to 27, I think they're going to have an opportunity to improve greatly and play a football game in which they score more points.
Hey, Doc, I want to throw it kind of a little bit to the question that you had today at the press conference. A little similar. You had asked about James Houston there and brought that up. I want to ask you about the defensive line just in general, though, too, as well. What are your thoughts on kind of how they looked last week and going into a matchup this week, like an Aiden Hutchinson versus Wirfs and that offensive line they have? What are your thoughts on that? Do you think were you happy from what you saw of the D-line? Or were you kind of a little bit like, hey, they can improve a little bit more? Obviously, they were getting to the quarterback, but not finishing and getting sacks.
Yeah, no doubt. I thought that when you see the pressure numbers and you watch the film, man, Marcus Davenport, Aiden Hutchinson with the spin move. Marcus Davenport was all up in Matthew Stafford's grill. That key third down play now has been highlighted all over the internet. That spin move by Aiden that just forced Matthew to just need that extra, force the football out just a little bit sooner than he wanted to. That forced the incompletion to Cooper Kupp. So the defensive line, look, I know everybody wants more sacks, and clearly this defensive line wants to hammer the quarterback and up those sack totals. But really, when you look at it, if you're watching film and you see the number of pressures, basically, when you saw the number of offensive plays the Rams ran, the Detroit Lions were pressuring the quarterback once every 2 snaps. So that is legitimately all that you can ask for, because Matthew Stafford was getting the football out so quick that was the game plan for the Rams. They knew that the Detroit Lions were coming after him. And so the Rams did everything possible to combat that. So for a first game, I thought the Detroit Lions, really the defensive line, gave everybody a lot of reason to be hopeful. Marcus Davenport's a dog. All you got to do is hope that he stays healthy. That, look, he's keeping James Houston on the bench. They want to play a guy that they trust. And I've had a chance now to talk to Marcus Davenport a couple times, and I like his swagger. I like the way he gets down. He tries to evade the questions, but he answers them in a manner in which there's something to work with. So I like Hutchinson and Davenport, that combination. So we all hope they stay healthy. And then Levi Onwuzurike gets a sack. And now you add to this defensive line DJ Reader. It's going to be unbelievable to see what the defensive line can accomplish against Baker Mayfield this week and moving forward.
You just brought up Baker, Doc, and I think this offense in Tampa Bay, it runs through one guy, Mike Evans. And Baker mic'd up last week against the Commanders, even said, like, they're in the red zone. If you're one-on-one with Mike Evans, I'm taking the shot every time. It's cheating. So what do you think Aaron Glenn, the secondary, especially when you look at Carlton Davis, who used to be in Tampa Bay, very familiar with Mike Evans, what do you think they're going to try to do to game plan and scheme stopping Mike Evans?
Yeah, it's going to be tough, right? I think he'll get some opportunities to make some plays, but clearly you bracket him. You have opportunities to give extra attention with Brian Branch or Kirby Joseph to that side of the field. And I just think that you make it so that every yard that Evans earns is tough, and you just limit the explosive. That's all you can do. Mike Evans' size, speed, he's going to be a problem. But I like the strategy that they deployed last week, even though Cooper Kupp got his, like we talked about, between the 20s, there's opportunities for teams against the Lions to move the football. But when it's time to clamp down and not allow touchdowns, then, hey, you handle business. And I just think that Carlton Davis will have his opportunity to do some things. And I think that the Aaron Glenn will have the right opportunities here for Mike Evans. You just got to hope. Look, in any game, you just got to limit the explosives. You can't let Evans just dictate the game. And I think you do that. This might be the game where you really need to, get home and have those opportunities. And if DJ Reader is the force, Aleem McNeil now is in play to be able to pressure Baker Mayfield. So I'm expecting a lot more sacks, and I'm expecting, pressure in that Baker Mayfield will be running for his life, because that's one way that you limit a top player is you force the quarterback into throwing the football sooner rather than later. And maybe, just maybe, you get that one turnover that you need that they'll take advantage of.
Doc, what do you think about, we talked about it earlier. Last time the Lions played the Buccaneers, speaking of pressure, they sent Brian Branch, iffy as well, used some of those guys on the back end. Can I get at least a little bit of the updates of what you've been hearing? Kirby Joseph out, a little bit of a hamstring injury. What's been going on with Iffy? Like, can you give an update? Davenport as well. Some of the guys that are out with injuries.
Yeah. I think Davenport should be no issues to return to play. Clearly,
Let's go.
Yeah, I don't think Davenport's going to have an issue. I think that when you look at it from the perspective of Kirby Joseph, it's yet to be determined. We'll see Thursday when they get back out there. He started practice, and clearly, something happened on Wednesday. So you got to monitor it. But look, the Lions take care of their players pretty well. And it was a tough fought contest, right? Kirby Joseph handling business. Iffy is a little bit more of a situation in which it's more concerning because he did practice and then he didn't. And now this week he started the week not practicing. So I think there was a situation in which they tried to test it out and maybe didn't go exactly as planned. So I think the biggest question mark will be Ifeatu Melifonwu. I think Penei Sewell, no doubt, had his ankle rolled up on a little bit, and he'll be okay. Jameson Williams, I think the same. But you look at the Detroit Lions. Let's just say there is a little bit of an injury situation. I think that they have enough depth that this week is still okay being at home because the offense is in such a solid position. If you have to, rely on Brandon Joseph per se, along with Brian Branch, they'll be okay. Yeah, it might not be the same level if something happens to Kirby Joseph, but I think that the work that Brandon Joseph did really was impressive in training camp. And so I'm curious to see if anything lingers with Kirby Joseph. I'm not really thinking it's serious at the moment, but we'll see as the week progresses. But I'm happy with the depth that this football team has at a lot of spots. Jameson Williams, you saw that play. I think now there's a lot of more doctors locally that are doing the analysis, and they actually showed the play in which Jamo got his ankle rolled up just a little bit. I think with a little bit of rest, he'll be out there. No doubt about it. But I'm curious real fast. I want to get your opinion because to me, we talked about Jamo. Clearly the point of the game was the highlight was Jamo exploding. Do you guys care that he's rolling up at 6 Mile? Now, I don't care. It's his business. He can roll up and do whatever he wants after the game. I'm not really a fan of the pose that he chose, but to me, and it's just my opinion, not judging the man, he can do whatever he wants. If you ball out, you can go to Legends, you can go to Players, you can go to 6 Mile, 7 Mile, you can go wherever you want. But to me, I always am of the opinion that nothing really great happens after midnight outside of your bedroom. So to me, if you're Jameson Williams, you just have a great ball game. You just go home, enjoy it with the fellas. You can bring everything you want. You can bring all the restaurant chefs to your place. So to me, I just think that, he's a young guy still learning his ways. I don't think that it's risky, but to me, you open yourself up for just a little bit of trouble if you're hanging out past midnight and you're a rich NFL player. It just is the case. And you saw what happened to Tyreek Hill. Look, you never wish ill on anyone, but I'm of the opinion you be preventative in your life. And if you're a rich ball player, hanging out past midnight is just a little bit risky. What do you guys think? Am I crazy? Am I just getting old? But I know people were talking about it. I just think that, you celebrate, you go home with the fellas, you crack a beer, and you hang out at home. You can create you can create the environment of your life with all the money you got. You can create the fantasy land in your crib.
Doc, as a Hall of Fame coach, as a wise man, as the name goes, Mike Tomlin once said, "We do not care. If you're putting up 125 yards and a touchdown, how old is he? 22, 23 years old?
Yep.
The last thing I'm doing after that Sunday night game, after having the game of my life, after hearing all the allegations about how I'm a bust, I can't do whatever I want, is going to bed. I'm sorry. It's just not happening. Going directly home. If Jameson, I don't know. He's a young dude. I understand what you're saying, Doc. That's a professional route to take. But I just think people handle themselves differently. I think people come up in different situations where it's just they know what they can handle. If you were to throw a player like Joe Burrow out on 6 Mile, you'd be like, all right, Joe, what are we doing here? And Jameson Williams' father even come out. I think it was either Eric Woodyard or Corey Woods. I shouldn't get those two mixed up, but it was one of the guys who covered the Lions. And Jameson Williams' father came out and just that's who Jamo is. That's what Jamo grew up doing. That's what Jamo's comfortable in. So as long as he's comfortable in the city, I don't think if you were to be in the city and touch J-Mo, like you're a dead man walking. Like I don't think anybody's gonna fuck with J-Mo. Like I understand San Francisco happened with Ricky Pearsall, but San Francisco's a fucking shit show right now.
That's also in my mind. What happened to the San Francisco 49er rolling out with a Rolex?
I get that stuff happens, but that could happen at 3 p.m., 3 a.m. on the way to the stadium like Tyreek Hill. So J-Mo, just in my opinion, just keep being you. It's working.
I'll say this: everyone has a different. I say everyone has a different way of celebrating wins and doing different things. All that, like Aleem McNeil was like, "Hey, I was laying in bed watching film and watching Reba with my girlfriend until 4 a.m." J-Mo went out and just had fun with the boys. Now I'll say this: like, as long as like you're not like doing anything stupid and being safe, like, all right, yeah, go ahead, go have fun, go to the club, go wherever you want and have fun. And as long as you're still performing the next week, it doesn't bother me personally. Like I'm sure all around the league there was guys that went out and partied, had a little bit of fun after week 1, but yeah, it doesn't. Hey, Doc, I love you. It doesn't bother Boone though.
Yeah. I agree with you guys. I think Corey was the one that put it out that in at least his experience, these athletes are essentially, for the most part, untouchable. Like these guys, they know, like that's Jamison freaking Williams. Like we need the guy. He's not going to get messed with. And it is partially his age. He's out there. Maybe you won't see, you're not going to see some of the older guys hanging out, but that's Jamison. That's kind of what he's always been. And obviously it works and he's comfortable. So I get it, Doc. I get your perspective. You're looking out for the guy, but it's what works for him. And hey, he's been good so far. He hasn't had no issues. So
no issues. And what a game he had. And look, man, that was the highlight. The highlight of the week was seeing the deep ball to J-Mo, seeing him involved in the offense. I just thought it was special. And look, for those that said, look now for all the people that critique J-Mo, he said it. He said, I had to mature. And so the people that were criticizing him were saying, hey, if he doesn't mature, there's something going on. And he said it. He looked at it, and he obviously was being talked with, and people spoke to him and said, hey, you got to mature. You got to take this more seriously. And he did. And now when you have the work ethic combined with the natural talent, this is what everybody wanted to see. So I don't blame the people that critiqued it. I think that it was a natural concern because he was a little bit immature. Now he's maturing. And now that you're seeing the fruits of the labor that he's done, putting it all together off the field, oh my goodness, man! This is why I took him in 2 fantasy leagues. I started Jamison Williams, and I'm very happy after week 1. So I hope he continues it because he's very talented and he set very high goals for himself, and he deserves to have all the success, to have the game ball given to him from Jared Goff, to have his first game ball given by Dan Campbell. You saw the natural excitement, and it was great to see. He deserved it, and I just think that now, when you have the opportunity to have that much talent, it would be a shame if you didn't put in the work. And now he is. And this is great. And I just think that more of the same. You take the top off of that defense, and you see what team you see what the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have to offer in terms of their secondary, and you test them out early.
Yeah, I do want to throw. I'm known, and a lot of people call me the Slappy because I have the Booner path and all of that. We know that. And you've known me for a while. The one thing I want to ask you, though, is I do want to just figure out what you thought, like the negatives. And obviously there was some negatives because it wasn't a blowout win. You had to go to overtime. You were down 20-17. What are the negatives that you saw coming out of Sunday? And more so just for the Lions, like, hey, this is what they have to improve if they want us to continue to be a Super Bowl contender here. Because we did our power rankings. I'll say this. The guys all had, I think, the Lions at 3. I originally, at the start of the season, had the Lions at 1. I did not move them out just because they still won versus the top 10 teams. I think the Rams are top 10, 11, and they were able to pull it out. Even with as bad as they played, I thought they still have the best roster in football. They're able to go out and pull out that win, and I think it only is up from here. What are some negatives that they need to work on kind of to stay in that top 3?
Yeah, they have to. Clearly, the offense has to get better. The passing offense has to get in rhythm. And real fast, just to divert, just remembering, I don't know if you guys are closer now. Did you guys go and hang out in Windsor when you were 19? Me and the fellas went out regularly to Windsor when we were young. And I always remember it was typically fun until 1 a.m. After that, it got rowdy. The young cats over there would fight each other, and it just got aggressive. So I remember that. And then when I turned 21, I was a regular in Pontiac. So I went out. So I definitely, and I went to Michigan State when I was 18 to 22. So I understand the nightlife scene. It just always felt like a lot of, weird things would happen. And so those memories are seared in my brain. So I'm also talking from experience, knowing that wild ass shit would happen. I just don't want nothing to happen to a Detroit Lion. So you can call me the king of AARP. You can call me whatever you want, but it's all coming from making sure that the Detroit Lions have every possible scenario to win this Super Bowl, because I'm invested. I'm bought in. I think it's coming, and you can almost feel it. And so that's why you look at it through this lens. That offense wasn't good enough on third down. Too many 3-and-outs. The connection with Goff and St. Brown wasn't there. It wasn't one of Amon-Ra's best games, but clearly the Rams understood the assignment of trying to take him away. So I thought that the most negative was regarding the offense. So clearly, though, once they recognized the passing game wasn't as crisp as it needed to be outside of JMO, they ran the football. And so that's why a football team is built with a run game and a passing game. And with David Montgomery being the guy that got the hot hand in overtime, I just thought it was beautiful to see. Old school football, you just go and handle business. And real fast, I guess I have to bring it up for those of you that were of the opinion that Matthew Stafford was this all-world quarterback. Didn't he do exactly what everybody thought he was going to do? A key drive, he throws an interception. That's costly in a game. And that's what he was doing in Detroit in critical moments at a very high rate. Now, remember, he had a football in the NFC Championship game that was so terribly thrown that, Lucas could have had it. Booner could have had it. I could have had it. And Tart dropped it. So there's a little bit of luck involved for all those people that say, oh, my God, Stafford went on to win. Look, in Detroit, you have to know the team that you have. If your defense is not all world, then as a quarterback, you have to kind of be a little bit more careful with the football. And Matthew Stafford, turnover machine, and that's what he did. In a critical moment, he turned the ball over to Kirby Joseph, and our guy got the last laugh. So that was great to see. And I thought that, Matthew Stafford played okay, but at the same token, when the time was right to pressure him, man, did the defensive line come through. But, man, guys, think about this. This is the greatest time to smile. The Lions played a C-plus game out there in front of the world. 22 million people plus saw the Lions play their C-plus game. Not even their best game, and they came out with the victory in overtime. That's a new era. That makes a lot of people smile. That makes you cheers and crack open beers and write even more stories and talk about this football team. It was great that they played not their best football, and they came out with the victory. And look, they're going to get better. It's going to get rolling. Laporta, Amon-Ra St. Brown, the offense. Gibbs getting more involved too, combined with the reliable David Montgomery. Look, guys, maybe I called the blowout last week. Why not call for another one this week? 35-20 Detroit Lions.
Whoa.
Why not? Just keep up. 35-20. They're going to break through. And look, the other aspect that now is sometimes the media asks the question too much, but it is a thing. The crowd at Ford Field is legitimately so loud, so disruptive that you can't hear yourself think. And I just think that now people are noticing the added element of the crazy fans that are in the stands cheering and supporting their team is going to be disruptive. And that's why I think Baker Mayfield is going to have a nightmare of a performance. And clearly he showed out week 1, but it was against the Commanders. Everybody shows out against them. They suck. So now you're coming into a situation in which Terrion Arnold with more experience, having his first game under his belt, Carlton Davis wanting to show out that, hey, you guys traded me. I just think that this is going to be another football game where the Detroit Lions really play. I think they execute a lot better offensively, and the defense will be there.
Yeah, Doc, we can break bread over the Matthew Stafford red zone interceptions. Those veneers that he put on looking like donkey out of Shrek. Kirby kicked him out the swamp. Kirby played a great game. My defensive MVP last week went to Alex Anzalone. He was playing out of his mind. What do you think, compared to this performance, what do you expect? Do you think Alex Anzalone can keep putting up 13 tackles, 3 of them for tackle for losses? But especially against Tampa Bay, what do you expect to see out of Alex Anzalone again this week?
Yeah, leadership. I thought that he set the tone right from play 1. I just thought it was great to see. I think that when you start to see a veteran that can get better and is good in coverage, I think he's a reliable tackler. I think that clearly he's going to be in the mix to run downhill and get to the running backs, just try and limit and force. Look, you saw it. At some points the Lions made the Rams one-dimensional. They just had to throw the ball. And I think that's, again, going to be the game plan this week is to, hey, make sure that no matter what, you're gap responsible, you understand, read your keys, know where you got to be. And when the opportunity presents itself, you make the tackles. And he's getting a little bit better, too, in coverage. So this is just a great thing for the linebackers unit to have a reliable tackler, a veteran leader that will be out there. And it was nice to see Malcolm Rodriguez kind of get a little bit more run than many people expected. Many people thought maybe Jack Campbell would play a little bit more. So now in a situation in which you have this linebackers crew, I'm satisfied with it. But I did, I think you guys saw it. I don't know if you had a chance to read it just yet because I put it out just before you guys came on the air. But I put out an opinion piece, maybe my second one of the season. But I did ask because I was surprised nobody asked before me. But I got a chance to ask Dan Campbell about James Houston, and he gave the old Booner answer that makes you go, oh, doesn't seem like he's a Dan Campbell favorite. And look, Davenport reminded me, hey, he the reason why he came here was for Dan Campbell and Aaron Glenn from the time they spent with the Saints. It doesn't seem like James Houston is a Dan Campbell guy anymore. So my opinion piece on Lions on SI is I think the Lions should trade James Houston. I think if you can get a fifth, then you would have gotten some value. If you can get as high as a fourth, I think it's time maybe. And it's no fault of James Houston. Look, he's got a certain skill set, and it's a skill set I think another team might covet. But for this situation, Dan Campbell kind of indicated, look, they're going to be debating every week. Do we need another defensive back? Do we need another guy that's better at special teams? James Houston is not top of mind in regards to making the active roster. When he was inactive, that was a big surprise because you figured a football team needs pass rush and you could give Marcus Davenport a little bit of a spell. But people reminded me that were supportive that read the article. They said, look, maybe Josh Pascal takes over that role as a reserve, or you go to Wingo, or you go to a mix and match with Levi if something happens to Davenport. So it just seems like to me, and it's one of those things where sometimes just a change of scenery might do the player better. And I just think that James Houston, the long-term future is starting to look dimmer than it did before. And I just think that if you can get a fifth rounder, hey, you got him in the sixth round. It just didn't, come to fruition. But I understand those that say insurance, but I do think a lot of people were favorable to my opinion, which was good because I thought I was going to get a little bit of pushback. But I think trade James Houston. Am I wrong? Am I crazy?
It's tough. I mean, you look at this, and I've been saying this for months, Doc, that if we'll see how this Davenport experiment goes, because I think that at the trade deadline, the position they should target should be an edge. So if you're going to trade James Houston, I think that further proves that they should be trading for an edge, or at least trying to acquire someone on the edge. It doesn't matter. I don't know. It's tough. If you trade James Houston away, even though he has not looked great, in terms of what I know, it's the NFL. It's not for long. It doesn't matter what you did, but he is technically still one of your best pass rushers. So if you're trading him when his stock is at the lowest, that's also a tough one, Doc, because his stock is like all-time low, and then you trade him.
But no, it's true. But at the same token, you only need one team of the 31 other teams to say, you know what, we saw those 8 sacks. We think we can use them a little bit more. And I do think that position and those 8 sacks really kind of give him a little bit of credit. Yeah, I do think that maybe they would showcase him and play him a little bit more, but we're talking maybe at the deadline, maybe there's an opportunity to get him out there a little bit more. But if Davenport stays healthy, I disagree. I think that Davenport with his violent bull rush is only going to get better. And I just think that, my goodness, you just saw a sample of what Marcus Davenport can do. I'm high on him. I like what he can bring to the table. Yeah, the key is going to be health, but at the same token, if Davenport goes down, I think they trust other guys. I think the trust level is in a situation in which the rest of the league would understand it's just not a fit. And I think that there's an opportunity maybe if he does play a little bit and showcase a little bit of that his time in Detroit might be done by the trade deadline. We'll see. But I'm curious because everyone read into it when Dan answered. He said, all I said was, what does James Houston have to do in practice to be a regular? And Dan Campbell said, I can't give you a clear answer, that, there's a lot of debate that has to go on in between other guys. And so that means James Houston has to do a lot of work to kind of overcome that. And he's basically one of the last decisions that gets out there.
Doc, I'll ask you this because, at least, when you look at the wide receiver core and how they utilized those guys last week, you look at Amon-Ra, we expect him to bounce back. Jameson Williams is going to have a pretty good performance. I don't know about 100-plus yards. That'd be awesome. Sam Laporta, same thing. Jahmyr Gibbs being utilized. They didn't really use Khalif Raymond. Expect them to as well. We know Ben Johnson spreads the ball around. The Tim Patrick stuff, him and Allen Robinson kind of battling. When do you think they make a decision on when to call one of those guys up? What do you think that timeline looks like? And if so, how do you think they utilize a guy like Tim Patrick when he does get here?
Yeah, I think it's this week. I think
okay.
Yeah, I think it's this week. Why? I think that does it really take that long to master this offense where you get a couple plays targeted your way? I think you use them as potentially on third down. I think you get him into some routes where what they intended for Donovan Peoples-Jones, where you go up and get the football, high point the ball, maybe 3rd and 6. You need a play. Clearly he's got sure hand. People raved about it. I watched this film. I think he can be utilized in the red zone as another target. I think another big-bodied receiver. So to me, I think that if it's not this week, then for sure next week. I think I would say, okay, maybe let's just say this. I think that Tim Patrick is in the lead. I tried, guys. Dan Campbell, and I joked with Christian right after I said Dan was prepared for that, like no doubt. He had his right away. Oh, it's a competition between all three. Because I didn't say this week to Dan. I said to Dan, I tried to be a little bit more coy. I said, is Tim Patrick on a path sooner rather than later? And right away, I tried, guys. But he said that there's competition, and we'll see where it goes. But I think that, to me, and maybe Donovan Peoples-Jones has the edge in terms of knowledge, but I just think in terms of talent and what someone could do right away, I think Tim Patrick could come right up this week and be a red zone target, get a couple plays on third down, help move the chains. And look, he is tall. He's a tall receiver, and I think he can definitely be somebody that can help this offense. But man, I'm excited. To me, the breakout player this week, Sam Laporta. I think that first game was an aberration. I think that, look, St. Brown and J-Mo will get some attention. Look for St. Brown to have Sam Laporta to have 8 catches, 90 yards, and 2 touchdowns.
Wow.
This is Laporta's welcome to 2024 game, in my opinion.
Yeah. I think he scores, Doc. I'm with you.
Hey, Doc, something that happened this week, the Lions signed Greg Joseph to the practice squad. Does that mean anything with Jake Bates? What are you hearing kind of now in Allen Park? The conversations like around the room in the meetings there. Like, what are you hearing about the Greg Joseph thing? Was that just like precautionary when it comes to in case Jake Bates like is an emergency situation, or is Jake Bates fully the guy, or is that like let's say a competition behind it?
You said it. Jake Bates is the man. He's the man. And I think that he got a pressure kick that got the game tied up. So that was great to see. Brett Holmes said it. If you pay attention to his presser, he said they were going to sign a veteran to the practice squad. They want competition every week. And just in case something happens to Jake Bates, you have somebody that kicked in the division and somebody that has some experience. So you always want to have, I think, a kicker on the practice squad just to kind of bounce ideas off of, to see what he can do at different times as well. Someone that Jake Bates can bounce ideas off of. And so I think it's a great signing. I like what he did with the Vikings. It stunk that he lost his job with the Packers to a rookie, but in the end, another opportunity here in Detroit. Jake Bates is not going to lose his job anytime soon. He'd have to miss several kicks in a row. That leg is just legit, and he's a down-to-earth person. I think he's got the right mindset too. Faith-based individual that has the confidence that, hey, if I miss a kick, I go on to the next one. And I'm just curious to see what the distance is that Dan will try. So to me, my hope is, you get out to like a 21-0 lead and you got the ball, at the 50 and you let Jake have at it, and just to see if he can make a 60-yarder in front of the home fans, because that'll be a momentum builder for any time if he can make a 60-yarder. He's a good guy, and you root for guys like that. And I just think that Jake Bates is somebody that if he gets the accuracy down, there's a potential. It's too early, but you're in the neighborhood of Justin Tucker here with somebody that can be proficient, be here for a long time.
Kind of switching back to Sunday's game, Doc. Outside of Mike Evans, outside of Chris Godwin, it could even be defensively, especially because no Antoine Winfield, it looks like. Is there a player that really sticks out to you for Tampa Bay and be like, yeah, this guy's going to cause problems for Detroit and the Lions potentially?
Yeah, I like their offensive line. I think Wirfs is going to be somebody that's going to be out there to protect Baker Mayfield, and I just think Baker Mayfield's the guy you pay attention to because, man, when you saw what he was able to do, I tried today as well, and it was weird because he answered so fast that maybe he didn't hear my question or presumed I was asking a question to draw a headline. But I asked Carlton Davis, based on what you saw from Baker last year, what led to his resurgence? And he just kind of, I don't know, froze or just kind of said, well, he's always been a good player. And he just kind of quickly said it and moved on. So he didn't kind of give me any more insight. But I mean, I already know. I've watched the film. I just wanted to see it from somebody that actually competed against him. But Baker Mayfield's more mobile, a little bit more sharp. You saw in the game in the postseason that he's got a nice command of that offense. I think that he's in a situation in which he matured. He's a little bit more comfortable, and he's a player that can extend plays. Also somebody that if you don't maintain your edges can go out there and contain, you're going to find out that he'll run for yards and he'll cause some damage. So if you don't play defense at the level in which you know you can, Baker Mayfield will cause damage. He'll find Godwin. He'll find Mike Evans. And so to me, the two players that I'm just peeking at and making sure, well, clearly Mike Evans, but I want to see how the Lions continue to attack Baker Mayfield, where the angles of pressure come from, making sure that you make it difficult for Baker Mayfield, because if you give him time, if you're not on your, best game in terms of pass rush, he'll stand there and he'll find his receivers. He'll have a good game. If you drop over 30 points in week one, when offenses are typically struggling, you got something there, and he's got some weapons. So I'm definitely curious to see how Baker Mayfield attacks this game. And I think that he's definitely continuing to showcase that, the Buccaneers giving him the chance. He proved that their trust in him will be rewarded.
Doc, you wrote an article kind of about what Cooper Kupp said. It was it was everywhere. And he called Terry and Arnold one of them ones. And he had the two PIs, the PI calls, which, weren't great, but overall had a pretty good debut from the Lions rookie corner. What'd you make of his first game, his debut, and where do you think he's trending, and what do you expect out of him this game against another pretty good wide receiver core? Because he's being tested, Doc. He's being tested.
Yeah, look, he just looks like a natural. He looks like a person that can play the defensive back position, and that's good to see. He was fluid. You look at the film, and you're just like, you're excited to watch, and you're excited to see his footwork. You're excited to see the physicality in which he plays the game. I thought one of the two PI calls he got was a little bit bogus. Carlton Davis told me directly he thought that both of them were bogus. So that's cool to see. But look, Tyrion's the truth. And I think that he's a natural. And I've been on, and it's a blessing, I've been on everybody in Detroit, everybody in the chat, even the clowns that are making fun of me. Everybody needs to take a minute, go to Twitter, tag Nick Saban, and thank him for helping build your roster. He helped Michigan State turn it around when I was there. I got to see him build up Michigan State, and then Michigan State, for whatever dumb-ass fucking reason, didn't pay the man. They didn't recognize that you had a legend in your grasp. Nick Saban was at Michigan State when I was there. He had graduate assistants like Brian Daboll. He built something special. And even Williams was able to defeat Florida in a bowl game with Nick Saban's guys. And maybe he would have shuffled with the NFL and did all that. But imagine if Nick Saban would have stayed at Michigan State. It bothers me that it never came to fruition. But Nick Saban, defensive genius, and he taught Tyrion Arnold the exact ins and outs of professional football. And Tyrion's a pro, and he's going to use the trainings that he's taught from a defensive guru like Nick Saban to just handle it. It's a natural fit. Aaron Glenn, Nick Saban, similar style. They're not messing around. You mess up, you're going to get an earful. And Tyrion wants to be coached hard. That's the best mindset that you can have, is that he's not up all like maybe the former number 3 pick that you had, all up in his journal, all up in his feelings all the time, maybe not capable of handling all the pressure at that moment in his life. This guy can handle it. This guy's the truth. He's got the charisma. He's got the game, the fluidity. He was stride for stride quite a bit with Cooper. And why did Cooper Kupp say that? Because of the fact that Tyrion was right there in his grill all the time. There was never a time where he was clearly like beaten to the point of a disaster. Yeah, there were some plays made against him. That's going to happen. But he bounced back, and he's the truth. I think that when you look at a player of that caliber, you get excited because if that's where he started game one, now game two, the competition level gets better. It's only going to help Tyrion Arnold, and everybody's seeing it. And it's just a nice addition for this defense. I'm excited to watch more film of him, excited to see what he brings to the table. And look, all I can say, long story short, he ain't Jeff Okudah, so life is good.
Hey, love that quote, Doc.
You're right there, Doc. You're right there.
Hey, last question that I have here, Doc. One thing I talked about yesterday was the Jared Goff thing, and I went and looked at the stats and kind of presented them a little bit to the show here. Probably would have been a bottom 3 game of his 2023 season if you would compare it all to last year. Do you think he has a pretty good bounce back game here? I still think that he has an opportunity to go win MVP. It felt like everyone in the league was a little bit rusty for not playing in the preseason, and you kind of got that sense. How big of a bounce back are you expecting here with Goff? And I know you were in the locker room today with him. Is it positive from him? Does he feel, is QB1 good in there? Is he locked in, Doc?
Well, I got to give you a little insight. Let me tell you what happened. Today, it was a good locker room session. A lot of people talked. So Jared Goff also does a talk on Monday and a talk on he talks on Monday typically with Dan Miller of Fox, and then he talks on the Lions flagship station on Tuesday. So to me, I'm like, okay, you hear Jared Goff, and in terms of a story that you can write, you kind of say, okay, he's kind of, quick with the media. He kind of gives more to those guys than he does to the big group of reporters. So we were all talking to DJ Reader intently. And then if you see in my video that's on the site, you can hear the media say, okay, we're talking to Jared Goff now. And everybody that was talking to DJ Reader didn't leave. And the reason is Goff is professional. He doesn't really give a lot of great quotes. He's insightful, but he's somebody that if sometimes you're, interviewing somebody else, I'm going to go read
Goff
the quote.
Dry. He's dry, Doc.
It's intentional. He's got great personality, but he just wants to blow through it and get through it. And so I'm like, okay, if that's how you want to be, there's other people I can talk about and that are more interesting. So I did not listen to a single word. I wasn't there when he was talking. I was talking to DJ Reader. And to me, I think that clearly what you saw was the Rams brought the pressure. And they said, okay, we know that if we lessen the time that Goff has, it's going to disrupt the timing. And Dan Campbell said it too in his talks, which were that in certain routes that were run at certain times, the depth wasn't exactly right. You can go watch the film and see certain times where the receiver needed to be at 6 yards. He was at like 4 and the timing was off. And so it just wasn't crisp. So I think this week of practice, the point of emphasis is going to be route running, depth, making sure the concepts are locked down. So I expect, look, MVP this year, you're going to get the best out of a lot of people. And I think you got to taper that expectation a little bit because it's no disrespect to Goff, but you're starting to see that, look, Patrick Mahomes is still in this league. You still have a lot of talented football players that are making plays at the quarterback position. So it's going to be uphill climb for big accolades for Goff, but he's going to have a great season and he'll bounce back, no doubt about it. But I just think that the preciseness of Ben Johnson's offense needs everything to go exactly right in the route concepts. And it just, for week 1, it wasn't there, but week 2, I think will be a lot better. And look out, because I'm getting the sense that just based on Amon-Ra's vibe, I can't say what based on he said he's going to talk Thursday, just on his vibe, kind of maneuvering through the locker room today, I think he's pissed. I think that he looked at that stat and 3 catches for 13 yards. I'm looking that if it's not Sam Laporta, 12 catches, 140 yards, 2 touchdowns for St. Paul, because that man's pissed. He wants the football. Let the man cook. And I think Goff is definitely going to feed the beast when it starts to cook.
Love Great. Hey, Doc, you know what, Doc? Great stuff. We appreciate you. Keep up the great work. Please, guys, go give John, some love. Show him some love. Detroit Lions and Sports Illustrated link will be in the description. I was reading earlier. Also, TJ Reader compared Aiden Hutchinson to freaking Max Crosby. So we didn't even get to really ask you about that. That is huge. That is huge. Massive.
Yep.
No, go ahead. I want your thoughts on that as well.
I was gonna say Aiden Hutchinson, beast mode. The video, we got it on Lions on SI. I asked, Aiden Hutchinson directly, and that's the video I used. Also of DJ Reader, I asked Aiden after one game, why are you a better pass rusher? And I thought his answer was, I thought he was a little bit surprised that maybe I was like that direct after one game. But I asked him the question. He answered it thoughtfully. I thought it was great. And please, like I said, I do think that you guys have helped me be a better reporter, because I'm always thinking, what would the guys talk about? What would they ask? What would they want to know about? And to me, I did want to clear up for those that heard last week when I said the haters get me paid. It's not that they're going to click on my articles. I have already established a fan base, and I'm thank God for them every day. What it means is when people write you're a clown or you're no good or your opinions suck, it only makes me work harder. It makes me say, how do I fight my way through to ask questions? How do I get information that I know the people want? That's what I know. I mean, I've done it for 10 years. And so to me, I feel like now at 45, this is the year where I can say, okay, I'm a Detroit sports reporter. I'm decent enough to get information that will help the readers of Lions on SI and here when I present information to the fellas who respected me and kept me talking, even though I've said some dumbass things. So now that we've talked about football, I know you can't play it, but we need a breakdown of Shannon Sharpe. What the fuck was he doing? How the hell do you have some shit like that come out? That dude was louder than the chick in the video. What was going on? After this, he's going to break it down. Listen, I know it's the playbook that you're rich and famous. He's got enough clout. You don't need a sex tape to get more clout. Do you think I have to ask it because I'm always right to the truth. Yeah. Do you think he let that rip to shut up all the talk of those people who thought that he was into men?
I don't know. Hey, Shay.
I didn't even know that was a thing. I had no clue.
Antonio Brown has been on his. Jeff will tell you, Antonio Brown has been on his case for of the outfits that he wears, the way he pumps gas. I'm thinking he put that out there to kind of just say, look, I'm into handling business. But in the end, he's getting busy online. But, I mean, you can't be louder than the girl in the video. Just handle business.
Yeah. Michelle wasn't too loud, was she, Doc? Michelle.
Yeah.
I love it. One of the places where, I mean, of course, it was 4 minutes. Before I came on here, I'm like, fuck it. I'm just going to push button. I like it now. You can like shit and nobody sees it. So I like the post. I watched it. I'm like, the person that captioned it was hilarious in my mind. But you can't let that happen in your position. Hey. You're a multimillionaire on ESPN. How in the world is this happening to you? That it's unbelievable to have that happen. But to me, I think he did that shit on purpose.
Doc, and Shannon Sharpe is one of my favorite. I watch.
Me too. All the time. I watch the podcast. He's a legend.
He is like I have, and the guys know because these are my guys. They know who I like. All right, Joe Klatt, Shannon Sharpe, Nick Wright, Colin Coward. I have like that little 4 that I watch. I saw it, Doc, and I saw someone on Twitter say that he sounded like Doc Rivers on a treadmill. And that's really what got me. I was like, oh, and I think there's a little bit of it, Doc. I'm with you. I think that shit was intentional. I don't know. Well, if you got to do a tell-all tonight, there's some truth to it, Doc. Like I'm just saying, he had to do a tell-all, and I'm sure the views are high. I just checked; there's like 200,000 viewing. Yeah. A little bit of PR.
That's what I'm going to do right now. I want to hear his explanation. Ryan Anton heard it too. R-Truth, the wrestler, was clowning around. He's like, I think he'd be having sex. And R-Truth I thought that was fake, but I just that kind of stuff to me is always intriguing because I didn't think he needed the Kim Kardashian sex tape play thing to get that out there because he was.
You didn't need Ray J.
You didn't need all that. You handle business, but. It was crazy. Too bad you guys can't just break it all down because that shit would be content gold. But listen, guys, thank you guys. I can't wait. Like I said, 35-20, Lions going to win. Please visit Lions on SI. Check out at Detroit Podcast. You may like some things. You may not. But I do think that for free, a valuable read to get you information from inside Allen Park, a daily reporter covering the video. Thank you guys for the time.
Hey, and Doc, I don't think there'll be a tell-all from Doc. I think he's good for now. I don't think Doc's gonna have nothing leak out there with a girl named Michelle. All right, I think Doc's good. He's doing his thing.
At 45, I don't got 4 minutes in me. I got good 60 seconds, man. That's all I got, man. I'm tired, and I'm
not
excited.
much, but it's honest work, Doc.
Oh, shout out, Doc, man. Go
What
check
a
his stuff.
legend. Oh, my God. He's out every time.
Yeah.
I knew he was going to bring it up. I knew it. It was just a matter of time.
Yeah, it's
I
on
didn't
brand.
think he was, to be honest. That's hilarious.
No, that was right up Doc's alley.
Yeah, it definitely was. It definitely was on brand. And shout out to the Doc again. That was brought to you guys by BetUS. Boone, I'm excited to do this over/under segment. What do we got for today? Let's get away from Shannon.
Honestly, we don't need to talk about the Shannon Sharp stuff much longer. We can move on from that. I know. Hey, this segment, I think this is going to be a fun segment. It's essentially, I didn't even look. I have not looked. I'm the betting guy on the show. I haven't looked at any of the lines. And you know what? I went out there. I said, I'm going to make my own lines. The lines I made probably won't even be close. I did them based off guys that I think will have bounce back weeks and big weeks. My projections in my mind, what I think will happen, has nothing to do with the actual sports books or not. It is Detroit Lions over-unders for the Detroit Lions versus Tampa Bay Buccaneers game. Can we get a little bit of music in the background, boys? Let's hit it a little bit.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
All right. First one, and I want the chat. All 200 people in here right now. Before we start, hit the like button. Make sure you subscribe if you're not subscribed. And answer in the chat what you guys think if the player will be going over or under. First one, we're going to start off. The guy that I think is going to have a bounce back week had a very, very tough week one. I've never seen this player play this bad since he's kind of taken off in the NFL. Amon-Ra St. Brown. I put the over-under at 99.5. Oh, let's do 90.5. Let's just do 90.5. Does Amon-Ra St. Brown come out this week and have one of his legendary games that we've seen multiple times in the past? What do you guys think?
Ooh.
90.5.
Yeah, you know what? I'm hammering the over. I think Amon-Ra St. Brown this week goes for 100. I think he goes for close to 10 catches. I could see 8 for 110 and a TD. I think Amon-Ra has a huge week this week. So that's where I'm at with it. I think for a guy like him that he just got paid, he's a big part of their offense. J-Mo, all love to him for having the game he had, but the league will be reminded who's the wide receiver one. It's going to be Amon-Ra St. Brown. Give me the over. Easy. Smash that.
Love it.
I don't even need to waste breath on this one. Amon-Ra St. Brown, big game. Oh. Can put the line at 100, Boone. I'm going to hit the over.
The over. All right, I'm taking the over as well. I think we're clearing the sweep. A lot of people saying over. Some people saying under, actually. Alan B said under if we dominate. I'm taking the over. I think this is just a bounce back. This is a normal Amon-Ra St. Brown week. I think we see, Jeff, everything you said there. I think we finally see what we're expecting out of Amon-Ra St. Brown. And I think we see 7-8 catches, maybe even more. You might see double-digit catches from Amon-Ra St. Brown and over 100 yards all purpose. So 90.5, I love the line. This one's going to get some people. Jameson Williams, the man who had over 120 receiving yards last week. Over under 70.5 receiving yards. Where are you guys at with that? Does he keep this rolling? I put it at 70 because I know the line will probably be around 50 yards. It'll probably be around there. I'm interested to see if people think that he goes back and does another 70, 80-yard game, or if he kind of takes just a little bit step back with Amon-Ra stepping up and goes 50 yards, 40 yards.
Yeah, I'm going to that's a good line. I'm going to go under. I think this game for J-Mo looks, in terms of a stat line, it's going to look like 4 catches, 60 yards, and maybe a TD. Like, I think he's going to have one big play. It's just coming, probably a 40-yard bomb, and then he's going to have another couple catches. But he honestly, with his speed, he could go over. I'm going to go under slightly. I don't because I think Laporta shows up this week and has a big game. So I think that would leave J-Mo to just get 50, 60 yards and a couple catches. That's where I'm at. So I'm going to go under.
I'm going to go over, Boone. I think when you were talking about last week, when you're talking about the games where Jared Goff throws for a lot of yards, he has to be able to keep the offense up. I think this is going to be one of those games where Amon-Ra St. Brown goes off. I don't think Jameson Williams necessarily goes off, but I could see Jameson Williams 4 catches, 80 yards, and then Sam Laporta still gets fed. So I think Jameson Williams, especially with the confidence how he's rolling, he had a big play on this defense last year, and then now there's no Carlton Davis. Kalijah Kancey might be out. Give me J-Mo over.
Yeah, I said 70.5. I'm gonna take under. I think he gets around 50, 60, and I do think there's gonna be some all-purpose yards in there. I think maybe another 20, 30 all-purpose. So you might see another 100-yard all-purpose game for JMO. But I just think the receiving with Sam Laporta stepping back up here and Amon-Ra having a game here, I think that it evens out a little bit, 120. You got to think Jameson Williams got that 120 because we needed it. The Detroit Lions needed it. It was a game where no one was playing well besides David Montgomery and a little bit of Jahmyr Gibbs, and no receivers were out there stepping up, and JMO was the one that did it. I think once you start getting a balance in this offense, especially when it comes to the receiving crew, I think it starts to balance out a little bit more, and you're going to see the Amon-Ra step up, Sam Laporta, and you're going to see JMO kind of, and I think Khalif gets some too. So I'm going to say under, but I think it's like 50 or 60. So I don't think it's that crazy. Next one here, another weapon here, and we're going to do a couple offensive ones, and then I have some defense. Let's go stick with the offense here. The Detroit Lions electric offense. Let's do Sam Laporta over under. I'm sure his line is set in the 40s. I'm going to go over under 60.5. I want to see if you guys think he has a big game. What are you guys' thoughts on that? Chat, what do you guys think?
Yeah, I think this week you're going to see a big game from Amon-Ra. You're going to see Sam Laporta. I'm not on Doc's level, but I think he'll get probably anywhere from 50 to 70 yards. So, and then I think JMO's kind of hovering around that as well, probably 60. That was my prediction. So I'm going to go over for Sam Laporta. I think he scores this week. That's what I think is going to happen. I'm going to sprinkle a little bit on that anytime touchdown score, Sam Laporta. So I'm going to go over, Boone, on that easily.
Love that. Klotz, where are you at with this one?
I'm going to go slightly under. I don't think this is the breakout game for Sam Laporta. I do think that'll be very soon. But I think, like to Jeff's point, I think Sam Laporta does get to the end zone. Where I just look at the strength of this Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense, it's in the middle of the field. That's why I think Jameson Williams could be due for not another huge day, but for another good day. I think Amon-Ra, St. Brown, JMO. Laporta still gets fed, but I don't think it shows up more on the stats as far as the yards go. I think it would fall. He could even get 2 touchdowns. But I just think Levante David, they got KJ Brett, who I mentioned, who's very athletic. Like, the linebackers there are very solid, so I don't know about huge yardage, but in the red zone, he'll be a weapon.
Hey, give me the over. Give me the over 60.
All right.
Give me the over. Amon-Ra St. Brown, Sam Laporta, 2 massive games. Both will get in the end zone. Both will have 5+ catches at least, minimum. I think Amon-Ra could get 9 to 10. I think Sam Laporta can get 5 to 7. And I think Sam Laporta, we're going to see that yards after catch that we were seeing last year. Give me Sam Laporta and both Amon-Ra as well to both go over this week. And let me tease you a little bit here. I was last year, actually, I did on Sundays, I do my legacy player 14-3 last year, where they have to hit their yardage over and their touchdowns. Guess what? Week 1, Jameson Williams, easy hit. Already 1-0 this week. I promise you, my legend player,
legacy player.
I don't know why I had such a big brain right there. My legacy player will either be Amon-Ra St. Brown or Sam Laporta. I haven't decided yet. It'll be one of the two. So that's where I'm rolling with. Let's do this. Let's hit the running backs, fellas. Let's do the running backs. I'm interested to see what the people think about Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. I'm going to do this. Right. Are you guys ready? David Montgomery, over under 70.5 rushing yards. Last week, he was in the 90s. A lot of people are saying that they think maybe he's not going to have the same week because Jahmyr Gibbs will have a big week. But we know what David Montgomery does is he's one of the most consistent backs in the NFL. I think 70.5. I'm interested to see because last year at points he was having 60. And I think there's a chance you still see him get a big load of carries this week. What do you guys thought? 70.5.
So I guess if we're going off what he's done against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I know in the regular season of last year, I'm not counting the playoff game because I don't know off the top of my head. I know they weren't able to run the ball, but last year in Tampa, he struggled. 6 carries for 14 yards. I think he actually got hurt. Could be wrong there, but I know in the playoff game, he didn't play his best either. It's a tough front seven. I think the Lions are going to struggle a little bit to run the football. I know they have a great offensive line. They'll be able to run it to some degree. But they're going to be able to slow it down. I'm going to say under. I don't think he gets over 70. I can see anywhere from like a 13, 14 carry for 55, 60 yards. That's what I think from Dave Montgomery, even a touchdown. But I just think this week against this front seven with Vita Vea, who's a massive human being, running how Dave Montgomery runs, which is, up the middle, he's not going to be able to get 90 yards or 70 plus yards in this case. So I'm going to say under.
Hey, Monty's a bully. Monty's going to get his 15 touches, but he's going to fall under the 70 yards. But I think he falls around 65. I just think the hot hand this week is not going to be with David Montgomery. I think it's fall the other way with Jahmyr Gibbs. But again, that doesn't mean David Montgomery's bad. David Montgomery's a very good running back and has elite moments. So Monty's still going to have an impact on this offense. It's not like they're going to shut him down, but I just don't think that he's going to be the hot hand this week is all.
Hey.
Bone.
You guys know Alex Anzalone, Thor? Hammer the over. Give me the over. 70.5. I don't think it's that crazy. Last week, this man rushed, 5.4 yards per carry or something like that. Guess what? If you want to get 70 or more yards, he had 17 carries. I think he still gets 15 to 17 carries. That's just over 4 yards a carry. If you guys are going to tell me behind this offensive line, who is only going to get better as the weeks go on, you can't tell me that he's not going to go out there and still rush for over 4 yards a carry. I promise you he will. He's going to continue to get the carries, and he's going to continue to get the yardage. Give me the over with D-Mont. Next one here. I'm not doing rushing yards for Jahmyr Gibbs. We're going all-purpose. He had 80, I believe, or in the 80s earlier this week on Sunday night. I'm not going to do 100. I'm going to say all-purpose over 110. Or 105. Let's do 105. Let's do 105.
105?
I'm gonna say under, but by a little bit. Like I can see Jahmyr kind of similar to D-Mont getting. I think actually Jahmyr leads the team in rushing this week. So I think he'll get like 60, 70 yards. I can see him getting like 30 receiving yards. Like he'll contribute in the passing game. I think he'll just fall short. It'll be a couple. I just don't. That's where I'm leaning. I'm gonna fall a little short of it and say under. But man, that one's tough. I'm gonna say under slightly.
I'm going over. Last week, we were reminded how good David Montgomery is, why he's so important to this offense, and we're going to be reminded this week of why Jahmyr Gibbs is so important to this offense and how good of a player that he is. I think you can bank him for 30 to 40 yards through the air, and then you looked at what he did against this on the run game last year in the playoffs. He embarrassed the best player on that defense, and he's not even going to be playing. I think when you look at it, Levante David, very fine linebacker, not in his prime. KJ Britt, very fine linebacker, still has a lot to learn. Guys like that, Zion McCollum in the back end, Jahmyr Gibbs is going to be getting to the second level, I think, just embarrassing dudes. There's going to be multiple big plays from Jahmyr Gibbs. There's going to be multiple plays where he stopped in the line of scrimmage. But the big point is Jahmyr Gibbs is a big play waiting to happen, and I think we're going to see multiple of them throughout this game on Sunday.
I'm going to go – this is going to be my under. I'm going to go – I think if it's 105, 110, I think he gets about 95 to 100. I think it's right on the mark. I think maybe about 60 – I'll say around 60 rushing yards, 60, 70 rushing yards, and 30-ish receiving yards, and puts him right around 100 at that mark, which I think is a really good game. I still think that's like a very good game for a guy like Jahmyr Gibbs, and you might see him getting in the end zone again too. I mean, you got to think like him and D-Mont both get in the end zone. You could say almost every game, and you wouldn't be shocked. Let's go defense here too. I know we have a couple more minutes until mailbag. Let's do defense. Alex Anzalone. The Thor. This is actually Alex Anzalone question. Over, under 10.5 total tackles for the man himself. What do you guys think?
Ooh. It's like, do I want to doubt the man who was everywhere? I mean, I just like in Klotz, I know like I'm going to say under. I think he gets like 8 or 9 tackles. Double-digit tackles both games would be incredible. I'm going to say under. This week, he's going to be involved in the run game. He's going to be a factor. But I think Jack Campbell, he's going to shine this week, I think. It's going to balance out. I'll say under slightly, but, man, that's another tough one because Anzalone's everywhere. He's everywhere, Klotz.
I'm going to go under, too. I think Alex Anzalone was a perfect linebacker to have for the game plan that they had going into L.A. last week, or more so playing against L.A. They kept everything short. It was easy completions for Matthew Stafford because he had to get the ball out quick. I think Baker Mayfield's going to have more time. He's going to push the ball down the field more, resulting in Alex Anzalone not being involved as many tackles. I think the safeties like Brian Branch still have more tackles. Alex Anzalone probably like 7-8 tackles, 2 of them behind the line of scrimmage. He's going to have a big hit on Rachaad White at some point. Kate Otten, he's not going to do a damn thing. He's going to be in a fucking clamped hole with Alex Anzalone. There's no shot that he does anything, but I don't think he gets 13 tackles or 10 to that matter.
Hey, you guys are setting me up to be very, very successful versus you guys in this this segment. Give me the over. You both are going to say under. I can't wait until Sunday comes around at home in Ford Field. I'll tell you what. I don't have the stats for this, and I'll go do my homework throughout the week. I think Alex Anzalone plays better at home. This man gets absolutely hyped up when he makes plays at home, and I think he's going to go out there again. I think you could give him 11 total tackles again. Let him just continue this absolute hey, start a streak, Anzo. How about that? Go out there and start a double-digit tackle streak. Let me see you go out there and chase over that Pro Bowl or maybe an All-Pro as an All-Pro linebacker. That's what I want to see. I love that. Even though I was big on Jack Gamble getting better this year, I would not hate if Alex Anzalone gets better with him as well. Next one. I've got 2 more. I'm sorry. We're getting to it. Start dropping your mailbag questions. Any questions you have besides any Shannon Sharp questions. Defense. This is just a defense, straight defensive question. Over, under 1.5 turnovers.
Ooh.
I'm gonna. You said the defense.
Yeah.
Get it 14. Yeah, I'm gonna go over. I think the Lions, Baker Mayfield will give them 1, and then I think they force a fumble. I'm gonna go 2. I'm gonna go over. At home. That they tend to do that defense, especially the Anzalone punching balls out like Mike Tyson. Give me the over 2.
Yeah. I'm going over as well. Matthew Stafford threw an interception in the red zone last year. That's something he didn't do all year. Last season before that, Baker Mayfield, I think there is going to be moments where Baker Mayfield looks like Baker Mayfield. I don't think he's going to be going up against a defense that looks like the Washington Commanders. I know they had a lot of pieces brought in, but still that defense had a lot of work to do. That secondary is still awful. Baker Mayfield, very fine, serviceable quarterback in the league, but he's going up against a lot of playmakers at home under pressure. I think they find a way to pick him off at least 2 or 3 times.
Interception and a fumble recovery. I've got over. Give me 2 total turnovers, maybe even more. They're going to win the turnover battle. I actually tuned in to Todd Bowles. I tuned into Todd Bowles' press conference today, and they asked him. They said, "Hey, why did you guys lose those 2 games versus the Lions last year?" And you know what he said, Jeff? What is my always keys to victory? Turnovers. It is turnovers. And guess what Todd Bowles said the reason they lost those games last year? He said, we lost the turnover battle. And in the NFL, if you win the turnover battle, you win the football game. I think they go out there and force 2 or 3 turnovers, an interception. Maybe we see an Aiden Hutchinson strip sack. Maybe an Aleem McNeil strip sack. Maybe we see something like that. So I'm taking the over. The last one I have here, guys, this is a big one. This means a lot for me. This one right here. This one touches close to home, close to the heart. This is a very important over-under for me, all right? So I want you guys to really think about this one.
All right, Boone.
Aiden Hutchinson, over-under 1.5 sacks.
Oh. Man, this is a tough one. Fuck it. I'm going, you know what? I'm going over. Screw it. Tristan Wirfs. Yeah, I'm going to go over. Fuck it. He's going to beat Tristan Wirfs once. And then Baker Mayfield, there's going to be a play where he's running outside the pocket. Aiden Hutchinson gets him down. Give me 2 sacks from Aiden Hutchinson. Big break for him now beginning his Defensive Player of the Year campaign. So I'll go over. Fuck it.
I'm going to go under, Boone, but for good reason. I don't think Aiden Hutchinson gets to the quarterback twice because I think Aleem McNeil does. I think Aleem McNeil has a big game. Aiden Hutchinson, he's going to be there. I think Hutch gets a sack, but I think it's a game where Aleem McNeil dominates just because of the matchup. I think Tristan Wirfs, all-pro type of tackle, he's going to get the best of Hutch. Hutch will get the best of him, but while that's going on, Aleem McNeil is just going to be disrupting the game.
Real interesting. I love you guys' answers. Guess what? You guys all thought in the chat, oh, Booner's going to take the over. Booner's going to take the over. He's going to take the over. He loves Aiden Hutchinson. Well, guess what? I'm taking the over. Give me the over, boys. I want the over. Hey, he's going to go out there and he's going to leave this game with at least 3 sacks total on the season, and this thing's going to start picking up a little bit for the man, and he's going to go out there and get a Defensive Player of the Year. Conversations are going to be had. Guess what? He was behind Max Crosby to start the season in Defensive Player of the Year odds. Already has caught up to Max Crosby. So he's already working his way up. Give me the over 1.5 sacks at home. He goes out there. Last week, he was doing everything to get to Matthew Stafford. He will get to Baker. He will keep getting to Baker Mayfield, and he will finish some of those sacks. So I'm excited. I'm pumped up. That's the segment, boys. Mailbag. Start dropping your questions.
Let's do it, Boone.
Good stuff, Boone. The 8-1. It's tough. I'm going with it though. I like it.
All right, love it.
We go to the mailbag too. 185 people in here. Drop a like real quick for the fellas. Drop a like.
Absolutely.
Go get your merch.
Mm-hmm. Go do that. Matt N. Mailbag Bates.
Whoa. Whoa. That was
Matt N. Mailbag Bates over under 2.5 field goals.
I'll say under. I think he just gets to maybe 2. I think the offense is going to be scoring touchdowns on Sunday. I do. I think they're going to be punching the ball in a lot. I think there's only going to be about 1 or 2 opportunities for Bates to kick a field goal, unless they get down to the. I don't know. I just think they punch it in a lot. I think we're going to see a lot of touchdowns.
Yeah, I'm with Boone on this one. I like what he's preaching here.
Yeah, I'm with you. Burning issues. Mailbag. Worst Brad Holmes draft pick. Jack Campbell, Iffy, Levi O, or other.
Worst draft
pick. I
in
mean,
general, I don't think we should count like the 5th, 6th rounders either. Like
so those 3 between those 3 players, then I guess it would have
between
just
those 3. Go ahead, Boone.
No, I mean, I would probably. I don't know if I'm off on this. Levi's been playing better, and his career is starting to pick up a little bit.
But the worst of the 3,
maybe Josh Pascal.
Pascal's fine. I can deal with Pascal. I think
probably
you can say more about Levi O at this point, at least what you can expect out of the season, than you're saying about Josh Pascal. So I like that, Boone. If I had to pick between those 3, I'd probably pick Levi O just because of the stretch that if he had last year, and he really hasn't been on the field to kind of replicate anything. But I think you can't just ignore what he did last year.
Yeah, sadly, I do agree with Boone. If we're talking entirely, probably Josh Pascal. But of those 3, I would say Levi. But I think Levi has the edge right now on Josh. But he does, man. I mean, he played.
I don't even know how many snaps Josh got.
I don't think he played really at all. I didn't see him. I didn't see him. I don't know. Slappy 313 Mailbag. First Lions game you remember watching minus 2011 playoff loss to Saints. I'm gonna be honest.
Watching.
I honestly.
Oh, I know mine. I know mine vividly.
I don't know mine. I would say a memorable one. Like a memorable, like knowing exactly where I was at. I remember, was it 2015 versus the Cowboys, the playoffs? I was at a Big Boy with my stepdad. We were having dinner, and we went there. Yeah, we went there to watch the game specifically, and got dinner, and just sat there and watched the full game. And it was like just disappointing. I think that was the pass interference. That was like in 2015 though. I was in high school, or maybe it was earlier. What was?
That was probably like 2014, 15. Yeah.
Yeah, that's not the earliest, but I'm trying to think of like the earliest.
I remember it like it was yesterday.
No, go.
Tiffin Dragon, Nate Washington, like an 80-yard catch over the back of Chris Houston. Sean Hill for the Detroit Lions slinging darts. That was like the game because I think that was either Sue's first year or we took Sue right after that. Either way, the Sean Hill game versus the Tennessee Titans in overtime where the Titans ended up winning.
Yeah, I'm trying to think because I started watching the Detroit Lions. I started off as ironically, and when I was young, a Pistons fan. So I was going to Pistons games and watching games. I didn't really get into the Lions until that 2010 era, like after right around where Boone was. Like I started watching him lose in the playoffs, but that would probably be like my earliest memory is watching them lose in the playoffs. Like I'd never watched any Lions games before that, to be honest with you.
I'll say my earliest Lions memory, because I can't think of specific games. I feel like when you're young, it's hard to remember specific games that young. But when I was in 3rd grade, I don't even know when that would have been, like 2005 or 6 or something. I remember just going to a Lions a camp, and I was getting kicking lessons from Jason Hansen and running back lessons from Corey Schlesinger. So I was and that was when I was like 8 years old. 8 or 9 years old. Like I was in 3rd grade, just a young kid. And that was when I first started. I love the Lions. I started getting autographs. I had every poster, all of that. Like literally, yeah, Big Boy is a wild spot. Back in the day though, I lived in the middle of nowhere. Back in the day, Big Boy was like the spot. They used to have TVs. You can go, have dinner, watch some. It was a weird spot, but no, that's like my earliest memory, like when I was like 7 or 8 of the Lions.
I want to add just
that was at the Silverdome too, by the way. That wasn't even at Ford Field.
We're going to get to Ball Don't Lie's question in a second. I want to just address this ECL mailbag. When do subscriptions turn back on, and when can we start doing super chats? So that they told us October 22nd when we can reapply. October 22nd we can reapply to be monetized, and we can get super chats, memberships. You guys can use them. Emojis. So that's the date, around that date. So until then, we're just kind of fighting through. We appreciate you guys. But when we get it back, you guys can start. You'll have your memberships back and everything like that.
We're almost there. We're literally like, it was like what was it? A 3-month situation that they had put on us. We're literally not less than a month. We're like a month and a week out. It's going a lot quicker. Like the season will help it go by a little quicker. It does suck, but we will be back.
Ball don't lie, mailbag. Y'all think my Rams beat Arizona this weekend?
Where they
I actually saw it's even. That's what I was wondering.
I'm taking the Cardinals. We're gonna do a pick 'em. I'm probably taking the Cardinals. Rams are just so beat up right now.
Yeah, they just signed like 3 guys off a practice squad.
Yeah.
I think they. Let me see. Oh, State Farm Stadium.
I think it's in Arizona.
Yeah.
They lost. They lost so many guys are out.
Their
Puka
offensive
now.
line, Puka, Darius Williams, Tre'Davious White's just a matter of time, probably.
Yeah, and I'm pissed. I have Puka on my fantasy team. That's devastating. I mean, he's on IR now.
Give me Arizona.
Jordan Whittington season.
Can they get Marvin Harrison Jr. The football? Is that can we just do that?
It's not Kyler's job, apparently. Remember, it's not his job.
One of the dumbest things I've ever heard him say in my life. It definitely.
Feed Greg Dortch. Give Michael Wilson the ball, huh?
Yeah, it's.
I would say that offense for a half of football didn't look that bad, but hey, guess what? The other half of football that they didn't look as good, and look who locked down Marvin Harrison Jr. The Buffalo Bills.
Not on that last play.
No, he was open. But it was weird. I don't know. I hate that. I'm still staying strong.
Week 1.
I'm still staying strong.
Stay strong over there.
He's still going to be an absolute dog. All right. We appreciate you guys so much, man. Get your merchandise.
Jaden Daniels, best rookie quarterback.
Yeah. Should have thrown that in there.
Rush for 90 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Boone, you're kicking me while I'm down. All right, I got nothing to say back. Caleb Williams, he didn't look like it before he's won. But hey, we'll be back tomorrow. Be there, 8:00. Get your merchandise. Bully. The Montgomery shirt is live on our store, officialctsports.com. Get your merch.
Get your merch.
Can I just say tomorrow is National Booner Day. National Booner Day is tomorrow.
Wait,
the people who have watched me. The people who have watched me for over a year, they know what tomorrow is. Tomorrow is Booner's Day. It is the birthday of the one and only Booner. My birthday's tomorrow. Last year we did a full birthday show. We won't do it here, but it is National Booner Day tomorrow. Don't forget. Show up.
You know what, Boone? Shout out.
Show up.
Shout out, Boone.
Yeah, give Boone tomorrow. Tomorrow, everybody. Give Boone an @ on X, a DM on. Just wish the man happy birthday. Be there tomorrow too. Wish Boone an @ birthday in the chat. Big shout out to Boone. He's a legend. All right, we'll be out of here
for the Dan Campbell birthday. Notice that's all.
Hey, have a great night. Stay blessed out there. We'll catch you tomorrow.
Love you guys.